Hey everyone, Chris of Midlife Crisis Media here. Welcome to Recent Pickups number 88. This is everything I've added to my physical media collection in April of 2024, and also including my experiences and pickups from both the Midwest Gaming Classic that happened at the beginning of the month and C2E2, the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo that just happened this past weekend. I only went for one day, though, so we're not talking crazy stuff, but things were bought. So it's going to be quite an epic stream tonight, and I've got a lot to talk about, like literally stuff. Like I don't have pictures of certain things. I took pictures of things that I picked up at C2E2 on Sunday after I had already posted my weekly pickup social media post, and then came home from work today, and there's stuff waiting for me on my doorstep that is video game related. So there's even more stuff to talk about. So it's going to be a long stream. I'm not sad about it. So went to Midwest Gaming Classic at the beginning of the month. It was awesome. I will talk about my experiences, there, what I did, who I saw, what I bought. A lot was bought. And also including my experience at C2E2 this past weekend. So let's start off with, I've kind of got everything kind of bunched up into groups. So we'll start off with the movies that I picked up, because those don't have anything to do with any of the conventions that I went to. So there's that. So we'll start off with the films. I do have like video game-esque things, but I'll bunch them in with the video game stuff. Like if it was a D&D thing, I would do it beforehand, since it's not regarding a video game or anything, but we'll just start off with the films. And I do have some cool stuff to talk about. Not a whole lot. Going to Midwest Gaming Classic at the beginning of the month, I kind of took a break from buying, sort of. I mean, I picked stuff up here and there, but for the most part, I was like, if I have a pre-order for something, just let it roll in, but don't go out of your way to buy things. If I found something cheap, of course, but that wasn't my goal. For this month, I was like, just take it easy. You blew all that money at the convention, just take it easy. Yeah, you'll see why. So anyway, getting to the films. So starting off, we'll go with the movies. So last month, I was talking about how I found this YouTube channel that's basically featuring this one dude, Calvin Dyson, who it's a James Bond YouTube channel. It's all he talks about is James Bond stuff. He does like retrospectives of the movies, the video games, the books. He's going through like all of the books written by Ian Fleming and the people that took over after he died. He does like ranking videos of like his favorite theme songs from the films, like his favorite films, that kind of thing. And watching a bunch of his stuff, because it was something new to me, so I went through his backlog of videos and kind of got me in a Bond mood, which is why last month I picked up all of those James Bond video games that I did not have in my collection for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube era. And I bought all the ones I did not have for that generation. And then it made me look at my film collection, and I was like, I know I do have a lot of James Bond movies in my collection, but am I missing any? I knew I did not have them all, so I went through and I picked out all the ones that I did have, and I was like, okay, now you need to start looking out for these other ones. And then I went to Half Price Books, like seriously, 2 days before the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I was selling a bunch of, I had stacks and stacks of Blu-rays I wanted to get rid of that I have replaced with 4Ks. And I was like, while they're going through all the stuff that I'm selling, I'll take a look at the games, see if there's anything. There was nothing. And I'll look at the movies. And while I was there, I found 2 James Bond movies that I did not previously own. And the thing is, a lot of these movies that I did not already own in the series are the ones that I'm not too fond of, which is the reason why they weren't in there to begin with. I was like, I remember like thinking back when I was buying all the ones that I do have in my collection, like these are the ones I like, I don't need to have the other ones. Well, I can be kind of a completionist, kind of OCD about it. So I found 2 that are 2 of my least favorite films in the series, one of which is Diamonds Are Forever. This is the 6th seventh James Bond film. So there were 5 with Sean Connery. Sean Connery quit. George Lazenby was brought in to be his replacement. He quit after the one movie. And then they didn't, I guess, they wanted Roger Moore, but he was not available because he was still doing, I think, The Saint TV show. So they went hard after Sean Connery to come back for one more turn as Bond. And I think he was dying for it because he was not doing a whole lot after he quit Bond. I think he did like Zardoz, and he was itching to come back and get that payday. So this is the one he made. This one takes place primarily in America, in Las Vegas, and this one is just cheesy and goofy and stupid. Like it has Blofeld in it, but he's got like decoys, and he's played real like in the previous films where Blofeld was there, he was played really serious. Like the first time you really see him, it's Donald Pleasance in You Only Live Twice. And he's got like this scar over his eye. It was the model for Dr. Evil for the Austin Powers movies. And then in the next film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he was played by Telly Savalas, who played him like dangerous. And then in here, he's like a fop. He's just kind of like, hey guys, how's it going? And hey, and at one point he's like in drag, and it's just really silly and stupid. They kind of turned Blofeld into like a laughing stock, and I hate it. And Sean Connery, you can tell he's just doing this for a payday because he does not give a shit. He is just in like, auto mode. The movie itself is just dumb. Like I can't stand this one. It is boring as hell. But I needed it for the complete set. And the other one that I can't stand is Roger Moore's first Bond film, that's Live and Let Die. This one has a fantastic theme song. I will give it that. The Live and Let Die song by, was it Paul McCartney and Wings, is fantastic. Too bad the movie can't live up to the frickin' song. It's another one where I think it was still kind of, the writers were thinking that Roger Moore was just going to act just like Sean Connery did in his movies, but it has none of Roger Moore's sensibilities that we'll see like in the later movies where he kind of likes a light touch and he wants to be kind of silly and goofy. No, this one is just another one that takes place, I think it's mostly in Louisiana. It has to do with like voodoo and stuff. And the way they take out the bad guy in this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It is so dumb. So not a great Roger Moore, like first Bond film kind of situation. It was this one and the one that came out after it. So there was one that I do own that I hated, and that's the one that came out after this, and that's The Man with the Golden Gun. That's the one that almost ruined Bond forever. That was like the lowest grossing Bond movie of all time. And they had to do major revamps in order to get the audience back, which they did with Spy Who Loved Me, but this one I cannot stand. It is so dumb. And then I was like, okay, after I found those two at half-price books, I'm like, what else do I need? Well, I needed 4 more. So I just went on to Amazon and bought them. And the first one was the one with George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is the one that came between You Only Live Twice and Diamonds Are Forever. And I, as a child, seeing this, I absolutely hated it. It was like, it's mostly a love story. And it has like this guy that played Bond just this one time. And I remember my mom and dad saying, like at the time, like he's not good. The movie isn't all that great. My mom kind of liked the movie. My dad didn't like it. But I remember them saying like, but he's not a good Bond. So I remember just having this like distaste for it. So I never went back and watched it again. The last time I saw this prior to when I bought this copy right here is probably 1983 or 4. And I have not seen it since. So when I bought this, when it showed up, I'm like, okay, that's the one I've seen the least out of all of these other movies in my collection. Let's watch it. And I watched it. And you know what? It's kind of fantastic. George Lazenby is actually a really good Bond. He isn't trying to imitate Sean Connery. He's kind of doing his own thing. He was not an actor. He was a model. This was like the first acting job he ever had. And no pressure for your first acting job, right? But the thing is, like, he's really likable in the movie, and he's fun to watch, and he's really good at the action scenes. Like the fights in here, the fist fights are like super fast and kind of brutal and really fun to watch. And there's only like a couple of times where Lazenby does something where I'm kind of like, ugh. And there's this scene where he has been kidnapped by these thugs, and he is being taken to this office in like this warehouse that's empty. And as he gets to the warehouse, he turns around and beats the crap out of all of the thugs that have kidnapped him, and takes a knife, goes through the door they're trying to take him into, and goes to throw the knife at the person that's on the other side of the door. And the look on his face when he draws back with the knife is like, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, he looks so uncomfortable. And there's maybe 2 or 3 scenes where he's not good, but for the most part, like, the story with Blofeld is really cool and interesting. The action scenes, like I said, are great. The love story is fantastic. Diana Rigg, who was on the Avengers at the time, the British Avengers show, the spy show, plays the love interest, and she is fantastic. And it has a great... the theme song isn't really a theme song. It's like a piece of music that they played throughout the whole movie, but there is a love song that was by Louis Armstrong, I think it was. And that's a fantastic song. Diana Rigg, actually, the scenes where she's with Lazenby, she elevates him. And this has probably the most ballsy ending in the history of Bond films. And if you have not seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but holy shit, that's one of those things where you're like, wow, that happened. And it ends like right after that happens. It's like, damn, there's something to go out on. And I have done a complete 180 on this one. Like, I could not stand it back in the day, but like I said, you're a kid. You just want shoot, shoot, bang, bang. Love story stuff is icky. As an adult, I'm like, this is actually pretty rad. And I wish that Lazenby stuck with it. And he even says in interviews that he wishes that he didn't. Or he wishes that he didn't quit. He wished that he kept on going. He might have made Diamonds Are Forever a bearable movie because Sean Connery sure wasn't into it. Other ones that I needed were You Only Live Twice. This was the one where Sean Connery had first called it quits. You can, while you're watching it, I do remember watching this one as a kid a couple of times and saying, like, you can tell that Connery just does not care at this point. He was like having like fights with the producers and all that over like money, and he just didn't want to be there. He was just contractually obligated to be there for this one. So you can tell he's just not into it at all. He's just kind of like going through the motions. And this one takes place mostly in Japan. It's the best thing that this has going for it is the whole Blofeld thing with Donald Pleasance as Blofeld. He is fantastic. I remember that. And his lair is like this volcano lair, which they made fun of in Austin Powers as well. A lot of the stuff that was in Austin Powers that they ragged on came from here. But the movie itself, I think, is pretty terrible. Another one that I'm not a fan of, and I remember seeing this one in the drive-in, that is Octopussy. Stupid name. I'm sure it got people's butts in the seats because they probably expected to see something. But I remember my parents took me to see this one, and my brother, I do believe, to see this in the drive-in. And even as a kid, I was just like, did James Bond just dress up like a clown to infiltrate the evil circus thing? Because that is, I mean, people complain about Bond going to space in Moonraker. Oh, he dresses up like a clown in this one. The opening action scene is fantastic, though, with Bond in like this tiny little miniature airplane. That's really cool. The theme song in this one is terrible. And they kind of reuse a Bond girl actress that was in Man with a Golden Gun. And they put her in this instead as like in a bigger role. But the love story between Bond and her just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like, you killed my father. Let's fuck. Kind of thing. And then we're gonna go away together and start our own crime syndicate. It's like, where did this come from? What? Yeah, I cannot stand this one. It is kind of dumb and boring. It's the first movie where you can tell that Roger Moore is way too old to play Bond, and he needed to call it quits. It was really evident in the one that came out after this, which is another one I don't like, which I already had in my collection. And the last one I needed to fill out the set is one that I actually do enjoy, and that is The World Is Not Enough. This is the second to the last Pierce Brosnan Bond film. This is the one that gets a lot of shit because Denise Richards is a Bond girl in it, and yeah, she does kind of suck, but I have to give her credit, though. The reason she's the way she is in the movie is nobody on set was taking her seriously. Like, I guess it was Brosnan, the director, like the producer, everybody. The only person that wanted her to be there was, I think, Barbara Broccoli. And she was like, Denise Richards is like this new hot girl in Hollywood because she was in Starship Troopers and, you know, and Wild Things. And she's got a giant rack. You know, we got to put her in the movie for the people to get them titillated. And everyone else is just kind of like, this girl has no reason to be here. She is super young compared to Pierce Brosnan. She doesn't look like she is a nuclear scientist like her character is. And it's just, they didn't care. So I guess she didn't really get direction while they were making the movie. So she just kind of did her own thing and nobody said anything. So if you look in the background of scenes where people are talking and she's not involved, she's just fucking around in the background, just doing whatever. And I think that's funny that she just said, the hell with you guys. If you're going to be assholes, I'm going to do this. And apparently nobody said anything to her. She did not get notes. No one, like the director barely talked to her because I guess she was forced upon him and he didn't want to have her cast on the role. But I really do like this one because it has a really cool twist about the Bond girl thing. So there's usually 2 Bond girls in these movies now. And one of them turns out to actually be the villain. And I thought that was really cool. Bond actually goes through some shit in this one. The action scenes are kind of fantastic, a little ridiculous, but like Bond is dealing with like an injury the whole movie. And I thought that was a really cool twist too. So I really enjoy this one, regardless of Denise Richards being in it. I had a lot of fun. I remember like rushing to the theater the day it came out to go and see it, like opening night. And I had a great time with it, and I still do. And then when it comes to TV stuff on DVD, I keep on wanting to say DVD, Blu-ray. I've been talking about these for the past few months. Ranma 1/2. I am buying the sets of, or the volumes of episodes on Blu-ray whenever I can. And I should have all of them now, but one of them came screwed up. So I always thought there was 6 volumes. There was no seasons of this show. It was one season with like 170 episodes, and that, which is not the way we do things here in the U.S., but in Japan, sure, I guess. I thought there were 6 volumes. Turns out there's 7. I ordered all. I had 1 through 4. I ordered 5, 6, and 7 at the same time off of Amazon, and 7, or the volume 7, showed up without a slipcover. And I don't know how it happened, since you're going to see. So we got volume 5 and volume 6, and they came wrapped with a slipcover on them. Volume 7 came sealed, wrapped, with no slipcover. So I'm thinking somebody bought it, opened it, either threw away the slipcover or lost it or kept it, I don't know, and then sent it back, and then Amazon just rewrapped it and shipped it to me when I ordered it. So I told them, even in the little message when I put in for the return request, I was just kind of like, no slipcover, I'm not buying it. So how much of these? These each have 23 more episodes of the show on them. So I did end up buying 7. I bought it through eBay, but eBay isn't Amazon. They don't do next day delivery. So I'll probably show off season 7 in next month's stream. So super cool, super funny. At times, it can be cringy, like sex comedy animated half-hour series from Japan about... it's always about misunderstandings. Characters can switch bodies at any time. Like the main character, Ranma, can turn into a woman. His dad turns into a panda. And it's like, it always happens at the worst possible time. And always misunderstandings happen. So I need to sit down and watch this entire freaking series. I think I'm still on volume 1. So now we can get to the 4Ks, and I have some rad stuff in 4K. So we'll start with the standard stuff. So I picked up a copy of The Black Phone. This is by Scott Derrickson, the guy who directed Sinister and the original Doctor Strange movie with Benedict Cumberbatch. And this is from a short story, or based on a short story by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. And I never read the story, but I knew of it. And I remember when the movie came out, I was really excited to go see it, and I just never was able to get out to check it out. I never was able to see it when it was playing. So I ended up watching it on streaming when it came to, I think, HBO Max, and I was like, God damn, I'm an idiot. I wish I did see this. Like, when Derrickson is doing these, like, certain horror movies, like he did Sinister, and I loved Sinister. We just watched it for my podcast. The movie is starting. He's done some bad ones. He's done some good ones. Like, I was not a fan of The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I thought that was really boring. I was definitely not a fan of his Day the Earth Stood Still movie. He did another movie called like Deliver Us from Evil or something, which I thought was freaking terrible. But Doctor Strange I loved, and this I loved, and Sinister I loved. And I wonder if it has to do with the writer. So we have the writer C. Robert Cargill, And he used to be a writer for Ain't It Cool News. He wrote Sinister. Sinister was like an original concept script by him, and Derrickson ended up directing it. And I guess because they had such a successful partnership for that, they came back together for this. Cargill and Derrickson adapted the story to a screenplay for this, and it's awesome. So there's a killer out there played by Ethan Hawke who kidnaps children and he locks them in his basement, and I wouldn't say he really tortures them or anything like that. He's tormenting them emotionally, most likely, or more than anything. But the thing is, there's like a phone on the wall in the basement dungeon that doesn't work. But for some reason, the kid ends up being able to use it to talk to the ghosts of the other kids that have been killed in that basement, and they are trying to help him escape. And the kid starts doing things around the room that you have no idea what is going on, like why he's doing these things, until like the last 20 minutes where you're like, oh shit, that's awesome. It blew me away, this flick. It is really creepy. Ethan Hawke is great at playing creepy. He's turning into like a kind of a horror icon now, I think. He's done so many horror movies since he hit his 30s and 40s. So I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad that I finally own a copy of it on 4K. Also picked up, I was not a fan of this, but I have all the other movies from this series, so why not? And that is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This is the final movie in the DC Extended Universe, and it does not wrap anything up at all. Everyone was saying this is the big finale for the universe before James Gunn's reboot begins, and you would think that they would try to tie some other things up in the DCEU, but no, it's like you would think there'd be one final after credit scene that would be a big cap on it. And what is it? It's Aquaman's brother eating a bug. But yeah, this one feels really rushed and tinkered with, and it's actually, I really do enjoy the first Aquaman movie that Jason Momoa was in. This one just feels kind of rushed, and it's like Batman and Robin-esque, I guess. There's too much going on in it, too many characters to keep track of. It's really silly, and I don't like it. I just did not. I was watching, and I was just like, well, yeah, it was a one-hit wonder kind of situation. And I remember watching the trailers and saying, oh, look, they're really trying to keep Amber Heard out of the trailers. I guess she's not in the movie that much. No, she's in the whole movie. They just hid it from the trailers. So I had to get that. I found it at Target. Target apparently is still selling Blu-rays and DVDs and 4Ks now. They were going to get rid of them. But now they've got them back because I guess Best Buy stopped doing it. So they're like, maybe we'll just hang on to it for a little while longer. So I found that at Target while I was doing some grocery shopping on Friday. And then I also ended up picking up The Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have not seen this yet. This is one of the first movies in a long time that I have bought sight unseen. And why is that? It was discounted heavily. Normally these 4Ks go for $30, and this was $15. And I was just kind of I hope that's some sort of an error, so I'll take advantage of it while I can. I have seen all the other Hunger Games movies. I like some of them. I don't like some of them. I don't know about this. I have not seen it yet, like I said, but I'll give it a shot. If I don't like it, I can always sell it or give it to somebody else. But this is a prequel to the other Hunger Games movies. This is all about the first Hunger Games, the first ever Hunger Games. And it stars, character-wise, this character is supposed to be Snow, who was Donald Sutherland in the other series films, as he was an old man in that. This is his character as a young man and how he became involved in the Hunger Games as a trainer. I can't remember what they call them, your sponsor to one of the districts. So he trains you to participate kind of thing. So I'll probably watch it this upcoming weekend. Or I'll bring it over to my mother's house. I'm going to visit her tomorrow night. Maybe I'll bring it with and we'll watch it. So now the rest are steelbooks. One of them I bought twice by accident. So I did not remember that I had pre-ordered this through the Disney... Was it the Disney Movie Club or was it Groove? I think it was Groove. But whatever. It's The Departed. This is the Martin Scorsese adaptation of a Hong Kong crime thriller called Infernal Affairs. This has Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson. One of the last times I think I've seen Jack Nicholson in a movie. And Mark Wahlberg. So it's about a cop that's gone undercover into a mafia syndicate, and turns out he is actually a double agent. He actually became a cop because he works for the mafia. He became a cop to be inside, so he could get information about the cops whenever they would come after his boss. He could tell them what was going on, and so we have a mafia member posing as a cop, and then DiCaprio plays a cop who was undercover in that mafia organization as well. And these two characters keep crossing paths, and it's really, really good. I love it. It is one of my favorite Scorsese films. Jack Nicholson kind of goes overboard a little bit, but the thing that everyone complains about when it comes to this movie is the last shot. The last shot of this film is stupid. So it's like, bad things happen to some of these characters, and one of them gets revenge on another by capping him in cold blood, and then the camera kind of goes out the window of the apartment where this thing happens, and you see like a telephone wire going across the balcony, and a rat runs across it. Like the rat. It's like, that's dumb. But I ordered this through, I do believe, Groove. And I got it before it was released. Either I got it through Groove or I got it through the Disney Movie Club. I cannot remember which. It showed up in a nondescript package, and the return address was covered up by another label, and I could not see what it was. And I want to say I got this, probably through Disney, because they sent it to me like a week early. And then Disney did the exact same thing for these things too. So I'm thinking I ordered it there, and then I accidentally ordered it again on Amazon, and I had just sent it back because I said I ordered it twice by accident. But that's a great movie. And then I ordered these through Disney the moment they went up for pre-sale or pre-order. And because of Disney's Movie Club going out of business, and they have that sale going on where if you buy one movie at regular price, everything else you buy from that point on is 60% off. So I ordered one of these at full price, which was like $35, and then the rest were like $14, $15. So we'll start off with the Marvel stuff. So all of these are steelbooks of television shows that are on Disney Plus. And like I say, I don't plan on having streaming services forever. I would love to have them on physical instead. And when these came out, I ordered them. One is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the complete first season, probably the only season we're going to get of this. This is how the Falcon, like what happened after Endgame, where Captain America retired and handed the shield over to the Falcon and says, "You're the next Captain America." This is the aftermath of that. And the Falcon is like, "I don't think I can handle the responsibility." So he gives the shield back to S.H.I.E.L.D. He gives the shield back to S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah. And they hire somebody else to be the new Captain America, and he turns out to be a huge piece of shit. And it also is about Falcon having to team up with the Winter Soldier to stop this organization of superpowered, what are they called? Like displaced people because of what happened during the blip when Thanos snapped all the people away. When everybody came back, we had adapted in those 5 years to be without those people. So now all these people are back, and we don't have resources for them all. We don't have houses for them all. New people have taken over these people's homes. So it's like these people are all displaced now, and it's about a group of people who feel that they should have what they are owed before the blip. And they have gotten a hold of the superhero serum that they used to make Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and they are using it to get back at the governments that have fucked them over. And it's really, really good. I like this one quite a bit. And in the end, what happens? Falcon gets, to his shit together and becomes the new Captain America. And it's a pretty glorious moment when it happens. And I will say the opening action scene from the first episode, the big chase scene with the Falcon chasing down these dudes with squirrel suits, is almost like something you would see in a movie. It feels like you're watching a movie. And I'm like, the budget they threw at this show was amazing. It had to have been super high. I absolutely love it. Decent follow-up to Wanda. Yeah, I loved it. The one that I wasn't a big fan of, but I bought it anyway because I got it so cheap, because I got it for like $14, is Moon Knight. I was really excited about this one. I don't really know a whole lot about the character of Moon Knight. You tapped out after Hawkeye Girl show. I loved Hawkeye, though. Hawkeye I thought was a fantastic show. This one, on the other hand, it's you can tell it's building up to something. So the whole idea behind this character is there's this dude that has a dual personality. One personality is like this mild-mannered dude who works at a museum, and the other one is a freaking hitman who apparently, or not a hitman, but like like an Indiana Jones style archaeologist who actually is kind of a hitman also. And he is in league with, or that personality is in league with this ancient Egyptian god that turns him into this Moon Knight character to be his like Avenger on Earth. And the two personalities start like crossing over. And I was like, all right, cool. This is kind of fun. I like it. And it all of a sudden it's like, it's going nowhere for like 3 episodes. This is only like 6 episodes. Like the first 2 episodes are kind of cool. And then for 3 episodes, it kind of like goes nowhere. And then the final episode, they're like, oh shit, this is the last episode. We've got to wrap all these threads up now. And it's just like everything is rushed to this weird conclusion. And then you find out that the guy has a third personality. Then like the big after credit post credit stinger thing. And I was just kind of like, I'm not into it all that much. I was not a fan. The character of Moon Knight himself is cool. Too bad you don't see him very often. You see Oscar Isaac as like in the costume maybe 4 times the entire show, and it's usually real fast. And I was, like I said, I was not a big fan. But we're supposedly going to get a second season of it, so maybe that'll be better. Yeah, I've liked all of them except for that. I liked She-Hulk because I thought it was really funny and clever. I really liked Hawkeye. I thought Hawkeye was a fantastic show. That's the only one where I can... That one, and I was not a big fan of Miss Marvel. I like the character of Miss Marvel. I just thought the show itself was just geared more towards kids. And it wasn't for my demographic, so I was kind of like, okay, this isn't for me. I'm an old man. This is not made for me. This is made for the kids. But I like the character because I loved her in the Marvels movie. Yeah, X-Men 97's doing the shit, man. But Marvels I thought was a good way to get it back because, like I said, Miss Marvel makes that movie. But then we got 2 of the Star Wars shows, too. And I loved both of these. First one is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is the big comeback of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi since he played him in the prequels. And it's like an in-between story. It's like halfway between episode 3 and episode 4. It's like, Obi-Wan is on Tatooine. He's keeping an eye on Luke, making sure that, the Empire is not finding him. Darth Vader has not found him and all that. And he's just kind of living this like loner, sad life. He's like basically given up on the Force and he has no powers anymore, kind of. He's just working a day job essentially every day. And it's like that song by 9 Inch Nails, every day is exactly the same as what his life is like. And then he gets a call from Bail Organa, who was in episode 3, played by Jimmy Smits, saying that Leia, his adopted daughter, Luke's twin sister, has been kidnapped and he needs help to get her back. And Obi-Wan kind of comes out of retirement to help her. And it ends up being a pretty fantastic show. The little girl, I cannot remember what her name is, who is cast as Leia, is kind of fantastic. She ended up being in the Boogeyman movie that came out last summer. That was a Stephen King adaptation, and she's pretty good in that too. They kind of, like the whole thing with him helping out Leia, though, I was saying to myself, like, how are they going to work around that? Because in the movies, Leia never says anything about knowing Obi-Wan already when you see her in A New Hope. And there's a workaround. They figured out a way to make it so the wording she uses when she's recording that message for Obi-Wan in the beginning of the original movie, it's worded in a specific way to honor what happens here and how they work around it, which I thought was pretty cool. And plus, they also brought back, what's his name that plays Vader and Anakin? Jesus, I can't remember the guy's name that played Anakin in the prequels. Shit. Well, whatever. They brought him back to play Vader again, and you can tell that he's having a lot of fun. The fights between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are pretty fantastic. There's Inquisitors from the Rebels cartoon running around in it. One of them is from the cartoon. Actually, I think 2 of them are from the cartoon. And that's pretty awesome. There's a subplot going on with one of the Inquisitors having an issue with Obi-Wan personally, which I thought was pretty rad. I really enjoyed it. And by the end, you have the Obi-Wan that we all know from A New Hope back again. And I hope we get a second season of this. I thought it was pretty fantastic. What's up, Man Boy Cave? How's it going? Yeah, Kenobi is awesome. I absolutely love it. Hayden Christensen, that's it. Thank you, Retro Coop. Welcome, by the way, 8-Bit and Man Boy. And then the last movie I have to talk about is the other Star Wars series I got, and that is the first season of Andor, which is what I was referring to whenever people would ask me about it, is the adult Star Wars show. This one is not geared in any way for kids. This one is the one for mature adults. It goes at its own pace. It is super serious. It is violent. It is dark. Like effed up shit happens in this one, and I absolutely love it. It's a prequel to Rogue One, featuring Cassian Andor before we knew him in Rogue One. Like, how did he become a rebel? And this is, I guess, was supposedly designed to be a 2-season arc. And this is also the longest Star Wars show I think we've gotten. This one has like 12 episodes, I think. 12 episodes, which is, I think, the longest Star Wars show we've gotten. And this is also the most expensive one that they've made so far. And I absolutely loved it. It goes in so many different places, shows so many different characters. I love the way that Andor starts off as like this criminal, and you see him starting to develop a conscience as you go along, to the point where he's like, yeah, I think I do want to help these people against the rebellion. And he's getting there. And at the very end of the first season, he is there. And the second season is going to be great. You also deal with Mon Mothma and her trying to deal with the Empire and being a covert rebel in the government side of things, which I think is awesome as well. I absolutely loved it. We get to see so many different sides of this character that he's way more interesting than I thought he ever was in the movie. And I cannot wait for season 2. That whole thing in the prison is fantastic. That whole scenario where they're like, something just happened in the other wing. You can see it happening through the windows. Are they killing everybody over there? That kind of shit was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I wish we could convince Do You Nerd to give it another shot and finish it off. Yeah, Obi-Wan and Andor I think they are freaking fantastic. So now that that's over, we can get into the games, and I'm going to break this up into 3 different things. I'll first go on or talk about the things that I picked up that had nothing to do with the convention of any kind, because I went to 2 of them this month. So the things that I picked up outside, and also I can talk about the things that don't really have anything to do with a game itself, but they are gaming related. So as you can tell, I've started to hang up the shadow boxes that I've been buying over the last year on the wall, and they keep on changing. It's because I had to take 2 of them down to talk about them tonight, because I already had them on the wall, and I put 2 in their place that are going to be higher up on the wall. But I special ordered 2 of them from a website called, hang on one second. Let me see what it's called. Shit. Did I put it in my stores tab? Shit. I'll have to look it up. They have a specific website, and you can also get their stuff off of eBay. Hang on one second. I'll bring up their name. Their stuff is pretty awesome, though. There's actually more that I want to buy, but I don't have room to put it up there. Up on my wall, unless I get rid of some other ones. Hang on one second. I'm getting there. Just Google's being a butthead right now. You can bring up the mail. It's all right. It's called RetroGamesCrafts.com. And they do nothing but shadow boxes, and they have one you can tell or commission specific ones that you want. That has a section for that where you tell them what game you want. If there's a picture you want them to turn into a shadow box, they'll do it. I actually had that done like years and years ago. I have an ActRaiser one that you probably have never seen except for my room tour that I had made, and it came from frickin' Russia. But they had 2 of them on their website. One of them I got through eBay, and then I went to their website proper to get the next one. But you know me, I'm a Mr. Mortal Kombat guy, right? So I had to get this Mortal Kombat shadow box. They had like 8 different ones, and there was ones from Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. I'm not a big fan of 3, so any of the ones I saw from that game, I was like, nah. They had a couple from the first one, but the pictures they were using, like the image itself, the composition was either really busy or wasn't something that I was interested in. There was a bunch of Mortal Kombat 2. this is the one I ended up going with, where you have the Pit 2, and you have Sub-Zero giving an uppercut to Scorpion. I wish the blood was coming out, though, like in the game. But you can see Hornbuckle and Blaze fighting in the background, which is awesome. The other ones they had was Kung Lao's Fatality, where he takes the hat off and cuts you in half. But the background of it was just black, and it was nothing going on. One of them was like Katana and Melina fighting, but the poses they were in were kind of dumb. This is the only one where I was like, that actually looks kind of cool, because I love this stage, and I always love the mystery of who the hell those two people in the background were. So I had to pick that one up. And the other one I picked up is from one of my favorite Genesis games, which I own probably on 5 different consoles at this point. I have it on the Genesis. I have it on the Switch. I have it on the 3DO. I'm probably going to get it for the PS4 and probably and it's also on the Super Nintendo. I might buy it for the Super Nintendo just because I love the game. And that is Flashback, The Quest for Identity. So we have a shot of the lead character doing one of his leaps in the first stage of the game when you're in that alien forest. And I just love the 3D-ness of him jumping across those platforms. I think that's pretty rad. So I had to get that one. And actually, where the Battletoads one is right now is where the Flashback was, and where the Contra one is down here, that's where the Mortal Kombat one was. So I had to take them down, and I just replaced them with something else so we don't have blank spots in the background. Okay, so now we get into the games that I picked up outside of conventions, and most of this is from Limited Run, but the one game that did not come from Limited Run that I bought after the Midwest Gaming Classic was recommended by Back in the Day Gamer, by Tony. I think he talked about it on Facebook and Twitter. He posted like I just beat it post kind of thing, and he was like, not a lot of people talk about this game, but I'm telling you, it's pretty fantastic. So I looked into it, and it's not an expensive game, or it's not very expensive. I don't remember if I saw this at the convention or not, but I didn't think to look for it there. So after the convention, I picked up a copy of Shadow Blasters. And this is by Sage's Creation. And I have a bunch of games by them, and I consider them some of the better games I own on the Genesis in my collection. And this is like kind of like a run and gun, but in the style of Mystic Defender or Elisa Dragoon, where you're basically just running around just blasting enemies like magic like spells kind of stuff, like Jewel Master, or like I said, Elisa Dragoon, that kind of thing. And it looked really cool, so I picked it up. The instruction manual is a little damaged, but whatever. I love Flashback. It's one of my favorite games. So yeah, I picked this one up at Tony's recommendation, and it looks pretty rad. I played it for a little while on my Polymega, and I like it a lot. I like it. And then I have all these games that came from Limited Run. I have 4 of them, and 2 of them, or was it 2 of them? Yeah, 2 of them showed up today. Like I said, I came home from work right before the stream started, and these were sitting on my porch. So I was like, oh, 2 more games I can talk about in the stream. And one of them is a reproduction of my favorite game, or one of my favorite games on the 3DO. It is super expensive and hard to come by when you want to get it complete in box like I do. I still do have my original copy, but it is the jewel case only. I don't have the outer box, and I kind of wish I kept it back in the day because it has been so hard to try to find a CIB version of this, but I had to get it. And that is D. And this is the limited edition version. I guess that's what they're calling it. D stands for, I'm not going to tell you if you plan on playing the game, but it is in this hard plastic shell on the outside. And let's do a little unboxing now, shall we? So this is a full motion video game, but it is not live action characters. This is not like one of your Sewer Sharks or Night Traps or double switch kind of situation. This is all CGI, but it is a bunch of, well, not a bunch of, it has some quick time event kind of things, but a lot of it is like you're playing Myst. It's like puzzles, environmental puzzles, and you need to solve them in order to progress. So there you go. Come on. So you have this, like I said, hard outer shell, and then you pull it out and you have the inner shell. And on the back, D, darkness, destiny, despair, delirium, death, and damnation, which is pretty freaking rad, I must say. And let's open this up. And inside you have the game, which is sealed. And I guess it has that blue on there so you can't pass this off as a authentic game. And I don't remember, mine is not like this. Mine is like a single disc version of this. This is like a double discer. Is there anything else in here? Because this is kind of heavy. Yep, there's stuff in here as well. And it opens up, and ooh, I think there's a poster in here. Dude, I might actually want to hang this up. This is the original artwork for the game. This is what's on the front of the PlayStation, the Saturn, and the 3DO version. But I've always loved that artwork. That is super creepy. I love it. I might actually... The hard D. Peter. God damn it. So... D is, like I said, it's a full motion video game, kind of. It's like playing Myst. And the idea behind it is you play this girl named Laura, whose dad is a doctor, and he just went freaking berserk at a hospital that he works at. He like grabbed a gun and just started shooting people. And then he ran to this castle in the middle of nowhere. And you, as his daughter, go to the castle to see if you can find him and find out what is going on. And you find out all this crazy family history stuff while you're there doing these puzzles and whatnot. And it is absolutely bonkers, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. When you find out what the D stands for in the title, it's kind of like a mind-blowing moment. Like, I remember when I was playing it the first time, when I was playing through it, and they tell you what's going on and why he did what he did and, you know, why he went crazy and all that, and when you find out what it is, it's like, holy shit. Like, what? I absolutely loved it. And it instantly became like one of my favorite games. And I played through it multiple times, trying to like beat my time kind of thing. One of my favorites, and I'm super glad to have like a special edition version of it in the collection. I have to put this like right there. Like that. Chris got the D. Are you talking D Retro Coupe? Yeah, I remember I bought it on the 3DO, and I remember I got stuck, and then I brought it over to my friend Charlie's house, and we played it at his house on his 3DO, and like we played it all night long, and then we finally beat the game, and we're just like, wow, that was pretty fantastic. And then I think he bought it on the PS1 after that, and I just kept my 3DO version, but like I said, I threw the box away, and I'm an idiot. So these games that I got through limited run are for the PS4 and the PS5. I don't remember what two of these are because it's been so long since I pre-ordered them that I have forgotten everything about them. And one is called Embers of Mirim. Don't know why I bought it, why I thought it sounded cool, but it just says your ancient power can alter the world. As the mystical creature Mirim, you must restore balance and rid your beloved planet of the corruption infecting it. Discover hidden secrets to aid Mirim's adventure. Split into two independently controlled embers to solve puzzles and overcome obstacles. Explore a vibrant universe. Thawing mountains and aging forest, and I don't know what the hell that says. It doesn't look dark in here. Like I say, I don't know how many times. It is actually really dark in here. The camera just adjusts for the light level in here, and it looks bright, but it really isn't. It's really hard for me to read this stuff, but it looks like some sort of an adventure, and for some reason, Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon is in here. I don't know why I bought this. Apparently, I watched footage on YouTube about it or something, and I thought it looked cool enough to order. But like I said, I probably ordered this over a year ago, and it just came because the D holdup. D took forever for them to produce. So I've been waiting for that to come out in order to get that, and it's been way over a year. The other PS4 game I do know, because Kinsey from the Metal Jesus crew talked about this in one of her videos a long time ago. Like, this came out, like, I want to say probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago or something, and just finally got a physical release. And that's Night in the Woods. And this is like an adventure game where you're playing as like anthropomorphized animals and stuff. And I guess it's all about like mental health and stuff. But I always thought it sounded really cool. So when I finally saw that they were releasing it in physical form, I jumped on it because I always wanted to play it. But like, yeah, I can finally do it now. And here it's not all that long, so it'll be like a real quick beat kind of situation. Ember's Fire. You got it because you're a pyro? Yeah. And the last game I got through them is from Way Forward, and I know that's the reason I bought this. I didn't even give a shit about what kind of game it is or if I thought I would like it. If it's by Way Forward, I want it in my collection. They are my second favorite developer of all time, just behind Rare. And that is this thing called Spider Soars. Sorry, it has an exclamation point. Spider Soars! And it looks like a side-scrolling run-and-gun, kind of like Contra. So, I don't care. Maybe it's a Metroidvania. I don't know. All I know is it's by Way Forward. I had to have it, and now I do. Yay. So now I guess I can put the big D, as Peter says up here. Okay, now we can move on to conventions. So, Midwest Gaming Classic was the first weekend of this month. Manboy Cave was there. I ran into him. It was great to meet him. Sorry if I was a little awkward. It just kind of took me by surprise. Someone like screaming my name out in the crowd, and I was just like, huh, what? I ended up meeting him, met Chum Nasty. Ran into Captain Algebra, of course. Dan from Midwest Media Show. Gaming Off the Grid. Trying to think who else. Well, I was there with It's Rocket Sauce already. I never saw Megadan. TJ Kitsune was there. I met, Mega Matt. I ran into Freak of Four. Talked to him for a little while in the arcade. I'm trying to think who else was with us. I don't remember. Pronouncing what correctly? Talk to me, Peter. Tell me something. What? Pronouncing what? Are you talking Spider-Saurus? I'm trying to think now. Who did I run into? Damn it. Now it's going to piss me off. It's been like a month since it happened, and I can't remember. Anyway, so it runs from Friday to Sunday, the convention. Friday is like VIP night. Like if you want to pay an extra $100, you get early access to the arcade that they have on one of the floors. You get access to the museum. You get access to the vendors floor early. If there's anybody, the Spider-Saurs, if there's anybody who has already set up their table, you can buy stuff on Friday and not have to wait until Saturday or Sunday to do it. I am not doing that. The only time I've ever had a VIP badge is when I was doing a panel there, and they would give me a VIP badge. The one time they did give me a VIP badge, they told me, this is just so you can get into the room that you need to do your presentation in early, and that any of the staff won't say anything to you if you have this badge. They're like, you cannot use this to access any of the extra functions on Friday night. Like, you cannot go into the arcade or the vendors hall. And they're like, just don't do it. And we're like, okay, we did it anyway. I ain't stupid. Me and Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming, because we were on a panel together, we were like, yeah, we're going into the arcade. The hell with you guys. You gave us the pass. We're doing it. We did. So this year, I always drive up on Friday. I usually, if I was getting a hotel room, I would check in there. But since the last 2 years, I've spent the weekend at Rocket Sauce's place, who lives like 10, 15 minutes away. Met up with him and a buddy of Musty Hobbit, who has forsaken all of us gamers that were friends of his for some reason. One of his friends, Rob, came also to the convention because he's trying to do a complete Super Nintendo collection, and I guess he's kind of close. And he came and spent the weekend with Rocket Sauce as well. So on Friday, when I got to Rocket Sauce's place, it was around noon. Rob showed up around 1. We went out game hunting early. I just wish I can remember the name of the damn stores we went to that weren't called Makes Sense Variety Store. So the first place we went was Makes Sense Variety Store. And I only bought one thing there, and it was because it was an oddity, and I felt I needed to have it because it's just strange, and it's a homebrew thing, and it was kind of going toward a good cause. Some of the money, I guess, that is being spent on this, or maybe all of it, I don't know, is going towards diabetes research. And the guy who developed it, I guess it's because like one of his kids has diabetes, or his wife has, somebody in his family has diabetes, and he developed this to raise awareness. And it is called Diabetor and the Sugar Monster. And it's a Game Boy Color homebrew where you're playing as like this superhero who is going after the things that cause diabetes, like, the sugars. And it's like a platformer and all that. And there's the guy who developed it and his wife and child. And they had this a whole stack of these in one of the cases at the Makes Sense Variety Store. And I was like, if I'm going to pick up anything here, because I was trying not to spend money before the con, because I had saved up all this money to spend there, and I was trying my hardest not to spend anything else, that I was like, okay, if I'm going to get one thing, I'm going to get this, because like my dad had diabetes, and it definitely is one of the things that led to his death. So I felt I needed to pick this one up because, like I said, it's going towards a good cause and all that, so why not? I thought that was kind of cool. And then I saw an entire table, like the guy who made the game had an entire table at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and he was selling them there. I could have just waited, but I didn't know that. And then Rocket Sauce took us to he kept on describing it as a record store that kind of sort of sells video games too. They also sell movies and all that, but mostly they focus on like albums and like musical instrument kind of stuff. It's a music store, but they have like a little video game section. We get there and it's more than a little video game section. It is a gigantic video game section, and they had a lot of awesome stuff in there. It was like the way my half-price books was before COVID, how I would walk in there and there was all this stuff that I could had to choose from, and every week it was completely different inventory. This place had crazy cool amounts of stuff. This is the first time that Rocket Sauce took me there, Peter. He's never recommended this place before, and like we walk in the place, and all I see is albums and vinyl, and in the back I can see guitars and drum kits and stuff. And then he goes, "Oh no, look to your left." And I look, and I was like, "Look, what?" And I found some stuff. I picked up this Game Boy Advance game. You know me and my licensed games. I found one of Kong, the Eighth Wonder of the World, and this is based off of the Peter Jackson Kong movie. It came out long after, I'm assuming. This is not a first-person shooter like the PSP portable game is, based on the movie. And it is not the third-person action game like the Xbox and PS2 and GameCube and PS3 and 360 versions of the game are. This one is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you're playing as Kong, just going around the island, beating the crap out of all the other dinosaurs and whatever lives there. And it's completely sealed, too. You can see it's brand new, and I got it for $20. So I was pretty stoked to find a licensed game I had no idea existed until I saw it at the store. So I snagged it. Of course I did. It's a moral imperative. If it's a licensed game, I have to have it. And then I found this, which is a Sega arcade kind of game that I never heard of. And I thought I've heard of all the Sega games. And I was like, I don't know where this came from and how I did not hear about this beforehand, but I need it. I need it in my life. And it is called Aero Elite Combat Academy. And I saw the cover and I saw Sega and I was just kind of like, eh. But then I look at the back and it looks like an updated version of Afterburner. And I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Arcadey simulation in the cockpit. I love those Wing Commander style games, like I always say. So I snagged this, and this was brand new as well. It's still sealed. I don't know if this is the original seal, but it kind of looks like it could be. And this was like $7, so I snagged it. So, yeah. So that was all I picked up there. Trust me, I could have bought way more stuff at that music store, but like I said, I was trying to save money for the convention proper. But then he took us to another store, and it was another one that I have never Looks like Kong came out in 2005. Yeah, that was like right around the same time as the movie. He took us to another store, one that I had never been to before. Turns out this one is sort of new. There was a lot of wasted space in the place, so you walk in and there was like a series of like cases you would see at a jewelry store, where it's like they're waist high and it's all glass, and it's kind of like you have to be behind. Like there was like 3 people that were working there. They're all behind the case or behind the table, the glass table display things. And you have to ask the people there to see everything that they have. Nothing was out in the open for you to touch. Everything was behind glass. And they had a ton of stuff. Although, like I said, it was like this weaving jewel case thing. And then there was just all this empty space behind you. And then on the back wall, there was like a bunch of consoles, like Xboxes linked together so you can play like Halo. And then there was another room where they had like discount, like clearance stuff that you could ask for that was still in a case. And they had a bunch of arcade cabinets back there that were on free play. So there wasn't a whole lot of stuff there, but the stuff they did have was awesome. So I kind of lost my mind a little bit, going, let me see that, let me see that, let me see that, let me see that. The only thing I ended up buying, I put one thing back. Luckily, I picked it up for even cheaper at the convention the next day. But the one thing that I snagged was this game for the Super Famicom that Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming had played for his Backlog Roulette game early on in the days of our Super Enabler Brothers podcast. And it's like an odd one out when it comes to the franchise. And that is Front Mission Gun Hazard. So Front Mission is a strategy tactical RPG series by Square. And this is a run and gun. It's kind of like playing, what's it called? SNK. God damn it, why am I drawing a blank? Metal Slug. Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank? Metal Slug. It's like that. And I remember Jason telling me that it was freaking amazing and it was super fun. And I've always been on the lookout for it. Most of the time I can't remember what franchise it belongs to. So when I saw it in the case at that store, I texted Jason, like, what was the name of that run and gun that was like an odd one out in a tactical RPG series? I'm like, was it Front Mission? And he's like, yeah, Front Mission. It was Front Mission Gun Hazard. I'm like, okay, I found it. I'm buying it. And it was not expensive. I think it was $25. So I snagged it, and it looks like it is in brand spanking new condition. This box is super freaking crispy. Even this isn't creased. The manual looks like it's never been touched. And the cartridge is even still wrapped in plastic. Like, this looks like it is new old stock. That's how nice this is. So, and I did see a copy of this at the convention, and it was going for a lot more than I paid for it. So I got lucky. I got lucky both ways. I put one game back that I got cheaper at the convention, and I bought the game that was cheaper at the store than at the convention. So let me close this back up. And I have not played it yet, but I intend to play through it this year, and it looks fantastic. And then, this I got after the first day. I got this on Saturday night, but because I was buying other games for this console that day, Rocket Sauce was like, I have a game for that console that I hate, and I want to get rid of it. You can have it if you want it. I'll sell it to you cheap. Definitely way cheaper than they're selling it at the con. So I got a copy of Corpse Killer for the Sega CD32X from Rocket Sauce, and I want to say I paid him like $25 for this also. I think it was like $20 or $25, something like that. And I remember playing this on my 3DO. I used to have this for the 3DO. I don't think I have it anymore. If I do, it's loose. But it's a full motion video game, but it's like a light gun game. So you're on this like island in the Bahamas or whatever, and there's like some voodoo thing going on, and zombies are running loose, and basically it's like a auto-scrolling right to left kind of thing, and you just have to shoot all the zombies that are coming after you, but you're watching a live-action movie play out instead of animated characters coming at you. And he hates these kinds of games. I'm like, why'd you buy it? But I love these kinds of games, and I have a soft spot for them, so I absolutely had to get it off of his hands for the price that he was offering it to me for. Hells to the yeah. So, got to have that in the collection. Robin and Wes just picked up Corpse Killer 2. Well, nice. I'm glad to see that we have similar tastes. I love full motion video games. You all know they're like my guilty pleasure. I have to have them all. Okay, so now we can get into Saturday proper. So we got to the convention, I want to say, around 10-ish. And I remember, like, I was looking for specific things. There was 2 games I was looking for specifically at the con this year. I didn't make a video about it, but the ones I was looking for were Golden Axe Warrior on the Sega Master System, and at least one heavy hitter for the 32X, because I'm still toying with the idea of going for a complete 32X collection. And yes, I did see Web of Fire while I was at the convention. There was a guy selling it for like $1,400. We'll work on that one when we get there if I decide to go through with it. Anyway, so I was like, I want to at least get a heavy hitter for the 32X. And I ended up doing both. Spoiler alert. So I went my way because I was looking for certain things. You know, Rocket Sauce went his way. Rob went his way because, like I said, we're all like Ryan, Rocket Sauce was looking for at least one major heavy hitter for the NES because he's trying to get a complete NES collection. And I think he has mostly expensive games left to get. And he had like 2 or 3 different ones he was looking for. He was looking for like Gunneck and what was it? Gunneck. Oh, the Jetsons. And there was one other one he was looking for. And Rob was looking for like the Super Nintendo games he needed to complete his collection. So like we're all going for specific stuff. So we all went in different directions. And then I ran into people along the way. So first stuff, the stuff that I bought on Saturday is this. So the first thing I do remember buying was I went to this table. It was run by this woman who I think was in a wheelchair, who was super nice. And she was that was the other thing I noticed this year. Mo Game Con is the convention that when I go to it, every single person that I talk to at a table in the vendors hall is willing to make a deal. Midwest Gaming Classic, people aren't willing to make deals a lot of the time. A lot of them are just like, no, I did my research before I showed up here, and everything is priced accordingly. And that means eBay prices. So this year, it surprised me. Number one, I just got asked while I was at work because I was watching one of Sir HC Man's. He was streaming, and he was asking about the prices at the convention. And prices this year were actually pretty good. They were, like, I was seeing a lot of the stuff, at least that I was interested in, that were less than eBay prices, and people were all willing to make deals. Every single table that I went to, I made a deal. Maybe it was $5 off sometimes, but it's $5 I didn't have to pay that I could put toward another game. So I was really happy with not only the stuff I ended up finding, but the prices I paid for everything. One of them is from the stuff I bought on Sunday, and that is an insane fucking story that I will get into when I get there. So this first table I go to is this lady that's in a wheelchair. Super nice. I was chatting with her a little bit. There was a couple games I wanted, but I was like, I don't want to just start buying handfuls of games off the bat. I bought one game from this lady, and she took $5 off of it because I was talking rough. You want to get discounts on stuff? Chat up the vendors. They're bored most of the time. They're either being super alert to make sure people aren't stealing their shit, or they're just sitting there with their head in their hands waiting for someone to talk to them. And that's what this lady was like. So I bought X-Men on the Game Gear, and it is complete. And I have not played this yet because my Polymega does not do Game Gear stuff yet. I think there's an update coming to let me use my adapter that I had for my Retro Freak. I have to hook my Retro Freak up again if I want to play this. I don't think this is a direct adaptation of the Genesis game. I think it's its own thing, but I can't be sure. But I love X-Men. I love X-Men games. I hear there's like 3 of them for the freaking Game Gear. So I picked this one up, and this is supposed to have some cards inside, and I don't think it came with the cards. But the one thing I was just happy that it came with... Oh, it does have the cards. Holy shit! This is what I get for not paying attention. Then I'm so glad I paid... Okay, so I had a story about this, too. So this says it comes with 5 cards. I was just happy that it came with the cartridge holder. It did not come with a snap case. Luckily, I have an extra one in my closet right now. And it does come with the manual, and I did not realize it came with the cards. So I have a card of Cable, Beast, Magneto, hell yeah. Gambit, hell to the frickin' yeah. And Storm, hell to the frickin' yeah. I am super stoked that I did not realize those were in there. Well, it explains something because I bought this at a certain price, like I said, at that table. And then I went 2 tables away. It was like maybe 20 minutes later. And there was someone selling it for like $10 less than I paid for it. And I was like, damn it. I should have, I bet you $10 that one did not have the cards in it. So right now that I see that, I learn something new every day. I'm just glad that I bought this one and it had those cards. So that's awesome. So we'll see if the game's any good. I have not played it yet, like I said. Then there's a game store that's right by my work that TJ, Kitsune, and Megamat introduced me to that I did not know was there. And it's called Retro Dimensions. They have it. And then when we went there, when they came to visit over the summer, we went game hunting through Chicago. Even Captain Algebra told me, he brought it up. He's just like, you don't recognize the guy that owns the store that's behind the counter? He's at MGC. He has a table there every year. I'm like, no, I don't remember the vendors. Well, I went to his table because I also went to Retro Dimension right before the convention and sold off some stuff that I wanted to get rid of. And I asked them if they were going to be there, and the dude behind the counter was not the owner. The guy that was behind the counter was like, yeah, we're going to be there. The owner is already there, setting everything up. We're going to have the biggest PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 collection for sale that you have ever seen. And I'm like, okay, fine. And sure enough, I went to the table, and I've never seen that many PC Engine games in one place before. Sadly, I did not know what any of them were because I don't read Japanese. They did have a ton of Neo Geo games, and I watched John Aguilera, who used to have a YouTube channel. I watched him basically spend $1,000 on Neo Geo games that were complete in the box, and I was like, holy shit. But the one thing that I bought from that table was not a PC Engine game or a TurboGrafx game or a Neo Geo game. I do not collect Neo Geo. I found another Lynx game that I did not have, and I'm glad that I found this version of it because it also comes in one of these giant oversized boxes that my Gates of Zendikon is in, and that is Electro Cop. This was, I guess, a launch game for the convention, or the console as well. And it's like a side-scrolling run-and-gun platformer type of situation. And I have a soft spot for the Lynx. I had one back in the day. I said before, I'm a con man. When I was a kid, I was a con man. I could get my grandma to buy me any goddamn thing I asked for, and she would do it. I was like, Grandma, we need a Sega CD so bad. Why? Because I do. Okay. She bought us a Sega CD. So this is one of the old style Lynx cartridges. You can see how old it is. It does not have that curved lip. It basically has like these 2 pieces of plastic sticking out the back, so you can get a grip on it with your fingertips and yank it out of the console. Not the ideal way to get your game out, I will say. But it has the manual and everything. It was completely complete, and this thing looks brand freaking new. Another thing that's like super freaking crispy. Looks like it was opened from the wrapper and no one ever played it, which is awesome. It's good for me. And I'm also toying with the idea of maybe going for a complete Lynx set because I have a lot of the expensive stuff already. So why not? So we'll see. And then another one of the stores that I go to locally, Video Games Then and Now, that is about 15 minutes away from my work. The guy that owns the store has a table at the convention every year. He's the only person I know that has a table there that isn't like somebody I know through YouTube or something. And I go to his table every year, and the guy is a huge fan of the Vectrex. And as you can see, I got my Vectrex right here. I actually got this Vectrex dust cover for my console from his table at the convention this year. What's up, J-Chip? How's it going? You were one of the people I was sad I didn't run into at the convention. I was mentioning the people that I ran into, and I was like, I knew there was other people there that I didn't see, and I never ran into you while I was there. Maybe next year. So, like I said, the guy that runs that store is a huge fan of the Vectrex. I always end up getting a Vectrex something or other through this guy. He usually has a ton of the homebrew Vectrex stuff for sale, at the convention. He also has like modded Vectrex consoles there that have like a new outer skin or maybe like a color change on the screen or have been modded somehow. And this year I went to his table and I even talked to him about it too. I was like, hey, do you repair Vectrex consoles at the store? And the guy's like, yeah, why? What do you need? And I was like, well, there's always been, since I got my Vectrex, like this dot right in the middle of the screen. It's like a little vector dot. And I see people playing their Vectrexes on streams and stuff, and I never see that there. And he goes, oh, there's a dial in the back of the console that you just can dial the brightness down and that thing goes away. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know. And then I go, number two, there's like the thing buzzes. I know these things are known for making like a loud buzzing noise when you play them, but I also know that there was a mod you can get that will get rid of the buzz. And he's like, yeah, we do that. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll bring it in someday and have it done. While I'm here, I'll buy these games. So he had a couple of Vectrex games that were not super expensive at his table that are like official real releases that came out in the 80s. And one of them is called Starhawk, and it reminds me of the Death Star trench battle from the original Star Wars, as you can see. And it's just like an into-the-screen type of space shooter, which is really, really fun. Apparently, this is based on an arcade game that I have never seen. So I can't really comment if it's accurate or not. It says all the thrills of the real arcade version. Well, I never knew there was an arcade version to begin with, so there's that. And then the other one I ended up snagging is called Solar Quest. Looks like a game you'd enjoy. There's only one game for the Vectrex that I don't like that I own, and that is Berserk, because it's just a bad version of that arcade game. The one on the Atari is better. But it wasn't a vector graphics game anyway. But anyway, all of these are pretty awesome. So the other one is Solar Quest, like I said. And this is like, I have 3 other games that are similar to this in my collection already. It's kind of like playing Gyrus or Star Castle or Rip Off, that kind of thing, where it's like another Asteroids-esque style of shooter. And this is all the excitement of the real arcade version. Another game that I did not know was an arcade game to start with. So, but I'm glad I have them. And both of them I made damn sure that they had the inlays that you need to play. Oh, shit, I just dropped the cartridge. Fantastic. Good job, Chris. Each of these have like the overlay that goes over the screen of your Vectrex console to give you all the pertinent information that you need that you'll get from the arcade game and all that. So on the bottom it says like player 1, this button does hyper, this button is nuke, this button is a thruster, this button is fire, and all that. And it also colors the screen because the screen is in black and white. So it's a really cool console. I really enjoy it. I remember I wanted one back in the day when I remember we went to a Toys R Us once and they had a display version that you could play. And I remember going like, that is the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen. Mom and Dad, could we please get that for Christmas? And my dad went, ha, 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 you're a funny kid. Hell no. Now if I can only get this back in the box. Holy shit. This is why my streams are so long. Shit, I'll just worry about this after. I'll put you aside, sir. Somewhere. Hopefully. I'll put you right there. Blink. Okay. So moving on. So the game that I almost bought at that video game store that we went to where I picked up Gun Hazard. I'm going for a full set of Vectrex games. I don't know. There's the light pen stuff that is super freaking expensive, so I probably won't. Like I said, the only things I already have a complete Dreamcast set. I'm toying with the 32X and I'm toying with the Lynx. I still haven't decided yet, so we'll see. But like I said, the one game that I put back at that store where I found Gun Hazard, that I'm glad I put back because I found it like for $20 cheaper at the convention, is a piece of shit. But I had to get it because of what it is. Licensed game. Comic books. Characters I like. And it is for the Sega Saturn, and that is Iron Man and Exo Manowar in heavy metal. So this is, you take a Marvel character and then a character from Valiant Comics, which is Exo Manowar, and you put them together in a game that uses the same kind of graphics that they have in Donkey Kong Country and Killer Instinct, and turned it into a side-scrolling run-and-gun beat-em-up that has terrible controls. Yes. But I've been wanting this for a long time. I've always been curious about it. I'd never played this back in the day. I remember we had it at the video store I worked at. I bought a copy of it for the store for the PS1, and it rented all the time, so I assumed the rentals, meant that good. Apparently not, because we booted this up at Rocket Sauce's place on Saturday night, and we were both like, yikes. But I'm not sad I bought it. I've always been curious, like I said. So it's like two comic labels coming together for a video game. That's awesome. And don't forget, like Valiant Comics, they made that Bloodshot movie that came out in 2020 with Vin Diesel. That was supposed to be the launching of the Valiant movie universe. And the next movie they were planning on making was an Exo Man of War movie. And since Bloodshot bombed because of the pandemic, it came out like the week the pandemic hit. I saw it in the theater on Friday, and then the world shut down on Sunday. That's how effed up that was. Basically killed that idea before it even started. But like I said, it's a piece of crap, but it's fun. I mean, I'm glad I have it. So then I found this table in the back that had all these games that I wanted. And I ended up going back there again on Sunday and spending even more money. So that is this is a very Sega heavy haul that I got from Midwest Gaming Classic. Like a lot of Sega. Mostly, I want to say 85%, maybe 70, 80 or 85% Sega. And like I said, 32X. I was looking for 32X games. Now that I have the ability to play them on my Poly Mega, I want 32X games because I had it back in the day. I liked it for what it was. It wasn't mind-blowing. It wasn't super freaking amazing. But I had fun with what I had. It could have been that too. Anything that isn't a Fast and Furious movie that he does ends up bombing anyway. But they kind of screwed the character up to begin with because the comic book character of Bloodshot is an assassin who has a giant gaping hole in the middle of his chest that is constantly bleeding. It does not heal. And that's like his weakness. It's like his innards are exposed. And he's always bleeding. In the movie, it's like it glows in the middle of my chest when I get angry. Okay. Anyway, so I found this table in the back, like I said, that had two of the games that I was looking for as my goals for the convention. I was not willing to buy one of them because I found the other one, and these are both really expensive games. So I bought one of them here. But the 32X games that I picked up at this guy, and this is the guy that was like, I would throw a number at the guy. I'd package a whole bunch of games together, and I'd throw a number at him, and he'd go, okay. I never heard a no. So one of the games I picked up is probably the launch game that came out with the 32X, and that is Virtual Fighter. And it's a pretty goddamn good version of it, too. This is the first thing I played when I got back from the convention. And I was always curious about this. I never even had this back in the day when I did have a 32X. But I was curious to see how it held up because I still think the arcade game is one of my favorite arcade games. I remember if I wasn't playing Mortal Kombat 2 or I wasn't playing Street Fighter 2, one of the versions of Street Fighter 2 that was out there, or if I wasn't playing like WWF, the arcade game, I was playing Virtual Fighter. Or I wasn't playing Killer Instinct. I was playing Virtual Fighter. And I absolutely loved it. So it is etched in my memory what it should feel like and what it should look like. And it's pretty goddamn close. And I had a lot of fun playing it. I was playing it for like an hour. It's a pretty good port of the game. I don't know if I'd prefer this over the Saturn version. I haven't played the Saturn version in quite a long time. But this was pretty damn close. So I had a good time playing this one. And I got it for a pretty decent price. I think it was like $25. You wasted your money. Yeah, back then, Iron Man, nobody gave a shit about Iron Man. The other one I got was one that I was looking for, and I remember I found this at that Retro Dimensions place that I was talking about, the table that had all the PC Engine stuff. I found it at their actual store like a couple of weeks earlier, and the amount of money that they were asking for this, I was like, you can kiss my ass. Virtual Fighter, yeah, I love Virtual Fighter. I loved just the graphic style of it was really cool. So when I find this at that dude's table and it is way cheaper than it was at the store, and I got a discount on it by like asking the guy to make a deal, I was super thrilled about it. And that is Zaxxon's Mother Base 2000. So Zaxxon is like a classic 80s arcade game from, I think it was Sega. where it's like isometric. It's an isometric shooter, and you have to worry about the height you are at on the level when you're fighting, because there's things that are high you can crash into. There's walls, and you have to worry about the distance also. It's kind of a complicated game for the 80s, but it was really cool that it was giving you different things to do instead of just being another Galaxian clone, where it's just you're at the bottom of the screen and shoot the aliens that are coming down the screen at you. No, this one was, you had to worry about things. You had to worry about orientation. It was different, and I liked it. This is like the upgraded version of that. It is still in an isometric view. Everything is polygons now. I would say it's kind of like it took what Viewpoint did. Viewpoint kind of updated Zaxxon for the Neo Geo. This is kind of like their version of that. So it is a shmup, an outer space shmup, but it's in this really cool isometric view, and it's still pretty fun. Not the greatest game, mind you, but I was curious about that. I wanted to have it. And then we went back to that table. Well, I bought this. I bought one of my... Excuse me. I got a burp brewing, and it's like stuck in my throat. I bought one of my big games with these two. I bundled it with these two. I'll save that one for last. I ended up snagging a copy later on that day of Dead Angle for the Sega Master System. And this one, I want to say it was Tiger Chainsaw brought it up in one of his videos, because he was doing a bunch of Sega Master System content a while ago. And he brought this up in one of his videos. And it's kind of like a light gun game. But it doesn't require you to play with the light gun. It actually says on the back that it used the control stick or the control pad to play it. But you have like this halo of your character that takes up a good portion of the screen, but you're see-through, and you have a reticle that you're moving around the screen to kill all the bad guys that are running around. And it looked super fun. So I put it on my list of things that I wanted for the console, and when I saw it at this dude's table, I was like, I'll take it. And it was not super expensive. Like a lot of the stuff they had at this table that was not something that needed to be kept in a glass case away from people that would probably try to steal it because it's so expensive. Everything else at this guy's table was like really well priced. And he was still willing. It was two guys. It was like two brothers. And they were still willing to come down in price on them when you asked for a deal. So I snagged that. And I also snagged the port of Golden Axe for the Master System. And I really didn't know anything about this. It even comes with the poster that has all the games that were available at the time. I really didn't know anything about this one. I don't remember if anybody had talked about it online or not, but I mean, it's a downgraded port of a downgraded port. You know, the Genesis one had a lot of stuff missing from it, from the arcade, and this is even more so. I think you can only play as one of the characters in this. I think you can only play as the Barbarian. I don't think you can play as anybody else. And when you do one of your special attacks, the screen turns black so that the game can conserve memory to do the animation and all that. So I don't expect it to be awesome, but I love Golden Axe itself. I think it's a super fun beat-em-up, old-school beat-em-up. So I had to try this one out. I even asked Tiger Chainsaw about it because he was running the second stage in the back of the vendor's hall where he was interviewing all the other the big YouTubers that were there, and all the other panels, the stuff that I would be interested in was being held at his stage. And me and Rocket Sauce walked up to him at one point, and he asked us both, like, hey, what did you pick up so far? And I told him I picked up some Master System stuff. And I was like, have you played the Golden Axe port for the Master System? He's like, actually, no, I haven't. He goes, I've played a lot, have not played that yet. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to be any good. I mean, even the picture of the Barbarian on the front looks kind of poopy. It looks really cheap. And like I said, on the back, you can see it does not look like it's going to be all that. But I love Golden Axe, so I had to have it. But the one I was really looking for, they had at this table, and I bundled it with Mothership and Virtual Fighter, and that is Golden Axe Warrior, one of the games I was looking for at this con that I had on my goal list. And this is not your typical Golden Axe game. It is not a side-scrolling beat-em-up multiplayer style game. This is an RPG, an action RPG, that is like a ripoff of The Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda. And it is complete, and it does work. I tried it out. And it is fantastic. I actually have the downgraded port of this for the Game Gear as well. I have Golden Axe Warrior, but it's called Axe Battler, The Legend of Golden Axe, but it is the, I think the British version of it, but my Retro Freak plays region, it's region free. It doesn't matter what region it comes from, it'll play it. So I was super happy to get this. I was trying to get this last year at the convention. I tried my hardest. I saw some dude selling it, and I do believe it was that Retro Dimensions guy with all the PC Engine games this year that had it, and he had it for a really good price. But I was like, and I saw it on Saturday at the con, and I was like, I'm going to wait until Sunday to come back and try to get a deal with this guy, because I had already bought a bunch of Master System games from that guy last year, and he was willing to make deals. So I was like, I'll try to go on Sunday and make a deal with him then. And it was gone when I went back on Sunday. So I'm glad I snagged this when I could. And the thing that got me the most about buying this from those two brothers at their table was I bought this on Saturday, and then I went back on Sunday, and there's another copy of this sitting in their case. And the guy was selling, the guy that was, the two brothers that were selling the stuff were saying that these were not games from their collection. These are all the doubles from their collection. I'm like, you had two copies of Golden Axe Warrior just sitting around gathering dust that you're selling at this convention? Tell me where you get your games from. Tell me the garage sale area that you go to, because I want to go. Because that is nuts. So I'm super stoked that that is now in my collection. That is the crown jewel of my Master System collection. But the last thing I bought that day, so there's always, every con I go to, Golden Axe is legendary. Yeah, I'm super stoked that that's in my collection. I'm so happy. I'm finally glad that I can knock that off my list of like, what do you want to call them? My bucket list of stuff. But every convention I go to, there's always someone selling weaponry. Like, the foam stuff. You got like foam swords and guns and, props and stuff from video games and fantasy stuff in general and all that. There's always one. Well, there was like 3 of these tables at this con. And I'm lucky that I went to this one specific one first. So I walk up to this. I don't usually look at these tables because I could give a shit about that kind of stuff. I don't have room for that kind of stuff in my house. So I'm walking past the table or the guy's booth, and this thing catches my eye. One of the few games you owned in 89, 80, 90. Oh, Golden Axe Warrior? Hell yeah. So this one thing catches my eye because it's from a game I love. And I ask the guy, I'm like, how much are you charging for that? And the guy goes, $35. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll come back. So I continue walking along because I was still on my first lap of the convention of the vendors hall. The vendors hall is massive. Oh, Genesis version of Golden Axe. I gotcha. So I'm continuing on my loop of the entire vendors hall, and I come across 2 more weapon vendor type places, and they had the same thing. And when I asked them how much they were selling it for, they were like $60. And I go, you can kiss my ass. So I looped my way back to that other dude, and I was like, you still have it? It's still 35, right? And the guy goes, yeah. And I'm like, I'll take it. And that is Skippy, the artificial intelligence gun from Cyberpunk 2077. So if you've ever played Cyberpunk 2077, Skippy is this gun you find on a corpse in an alley, and it talks to you, and it has attitude, and you have to, like, you can maim. It asks you at the beginning when you get it. It's like, are you my main user now? Like, it asks you, are you my main user? And if you say yes, it says, cool. What do you plan on doing with me? Are you going to use me to maim people, or are you going to use me to kill people? And I was like, I don't want to be an asshole in this playthrough. I'm like, I'll maim people. And it goes, locked in place. So now whenever I was shooting people, it was automatically shooting people in the kneecaps. But the thing is, it would automatically target. But then after a while, I just started shooting people with him. He doesn't do a lot of damage in the game. But eventually when you kill a certain amount of people with him, he will go like, oh my God, you are a horrible person. I like it, kind of thing. And then once you kill a certain target amount, it ends a quest. And then you have to go and give the gun back to somebody, the person who owned it before. And it's one of the people that's one of your handlers in, I think, the Chinatown area. And it is super fun. The shit he says to you while you're killing people is super funny. So it even has like the Arasaka logo here on the bottom. So when I saw this, I'm like, that's rad that they made a gun based on Skippy, or a prop of Skippy. That's rad. So I had to have it. And then I told Church the Game Grinder that I found this, and I also told Mondane Designs, and Church was like, how much was it? I go, $35. He goes, get me one when you go back tomorrow. I'm like, all right, fine. And I go back, and the dude said, I bought the last one they had at the booth, and the guy said that he had more, but he'll bring them the next day. When I went to the guy's booth the next day, he was like, oh shit, I forgot them back at the hotel. I'm like, dude, come on. I'm like, what the hell? So like Church wanted me to buy him one, and I'm like, I can't, because like I told him it was $35. I'm not going to say send, and he already sent me $35 for it. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to that other vendor and spend $60 on it and ask you to send me another $25. I'm like, there's no way in hell. I was like, I just told him, I'm like, dude, the guy that was selling them, he ran out. He's like, oh man, but he ended up getting one online anyway. That was pretty much the exact same price. But super thrilled that I have a prop of Skippy. I'm just going to put him back where I've had him for the last few days. The last few streams, actually, you might have noticed I've had him sitting here in the background like that. So Skippy. So that night I got together with a bunch of YouTubers, and I felt really bad because who was it? It was me, Rocket Sauce, Rob, Captain Algebra, TJ, Mega Matt, Dan, Midwest Media Show. I think that's it. I honestly think that's it. We were going to go to the 3rd Street Tavern where we went last year for dinner on Saturday night, and we get there, and they're completely booked out. They're like, oh, no, all the tables are reserved for the night. Did you make a reservation? I'm like, no, last year we just walked in and we got tables. Like, what the hell? And the thing is, I have kind of a bad knee. I have a really old work injury from when I was a teenager, and lately it's been acting up. And where we ended up parking compared to where the restaurant was, we ended up walking like 3 blocks, and by the time we got to the restaurant, my knee was like in serious pain. And I was like, and like when they turned us away from the restaurant, they're like, oh, I guess we can go back to the car and find somewhere else. I'm like, I am not walking back to that fucking car right now. My knee is killing me. I will not make it back without collapsing. So they were like, okay, well, let's find another restaurant that's in this area. So we ended up going across the street to this like pizza slice place, and it was fantastic. The pizza slices were gigantic. They were like wedged like that. And they had a bunch of like really cool topping combinations and stuff. I got 2 slices. Everybody that I went with got 2 slices. I got one that was just your typical pepperoni. I think it was pepperoni, sausage, and mushroom. But they had one that was chicken parmesan, like a chicken parm. And it was one of the best slices of pizza I've ever had. It was so good and garlicky, and the chicken was like, it wasn't dried out. It was fantastic. And then by then, my knee was sufficiently like numb. It was okay at that point, and we walked back to the car, and I was fine. And then I bought that game off of Rocket Sauce, the Corpse Killer. So I went back on Sunday, and I felt really bad because 2 of my friends who aren't really gamers, they are gamers, but they don't collect games. They're not into the whole YouTube thing and all that. Although Charlie, Epic Dice Studio, he streams a little bit on Twitch, but he streams painting like Warhammer miniatures and stuff. He doesn't do any gaming stuff, like video game stuff. So my buddy Justin, who is a gamer, but he doesn't collect, and my buddy Charlie was going to come too. It was his first time coming to the convention. I talked him into it. I'm like, come on Sunday. You live in North Chicago. That's like a 45-minute drive to Milwaukee, and it's only $25 to get in. It's discount day for the convention. I'm like, come and we'll hang out. So like they said they were going to get there at a certain time, and then while we were driving to get breakfast, me, Ryan, and Rob, like I got a text. They're saying like, oh, we're almost there. And I was just kind of like, shit. So we get to the restaurant. I sat down. I got something to drink real quick because I was thirsty. I had like a lemonade. I'm like, look, guys, I got to go. I'll meet you guys at the convention. I'm not going to stick around for breakfast. And I felt really bad because I was kind of panicking a little bit because I'm like, I don't want them to get to the convention and be like running around going, where's Chris? Where's Chris? So like I just paid for my lemonade real quick, and I got up and left. And I kind of assumed that I would just see Ryan and Rob at the convention again. I never saw them. I felt so bad that I never said goodbye to Rob because it was the first time I'd ever met him. And like I left Ryan hanging because Ryan was bringing a bunch of stuff with him to sell at the convention in order to get another one of his heavy hitters because he did end up buying Gun Neck on Saturday. And he wanted to get that Jetsons that he kept on seeing at this one booth, and he was going to try to sell all this stuff that he had like Pokemon and Game Boy Advance games and stuff to get Jetsons, but I guess they didn't take it. So I felt really bad that I bolted out of the restaurant without saying goodbye, and I never saw them again for the rest of the day, the rest of the trip. So, but ran to the convention, and while I was waiting for my friends to show up, I bought some more shit. And I had quite possibly the best deal I have ever gotten. And it was random as hell. And I will talk about that last. It's not the last thing I bought, but I'll talk about it last. So I went back to that table that had the lady in the wheelchair that I bought the X-Men Game Gear game from. And like I said, I had seen another game at her table that I wanted, and I had seen it at another table as well, and it was cheaper at this lady's table. So I'm like, okay, if I go back there on Sunday and I see it, I'll pick it up. And it was still there. And that is Jim Power and the Lost. How's it worded? Jim Power, The Lost Dimension in 3D. And this is a side-scrolling run-and-gun that actually requires you... Well, you don't have to do it. You can play it in 3D with 3D glasses. This does not have the 3D glasses, which I think is why it was cheaper than at the other table. But it has the cartridge and the little protector at the bottom, and the manual is intact, and the box looks okay. So I was not upset because I have no intention of playing this in 3D, because that kind of 3D will break my brain. I've talked about how when I saw Freddy's Dead in the movie theater, and it was in that red and blue 3D for the last 20 minutes or whatever, and me and my brother, after the movie was over, walked over to a bookstore, and I picked up a magazine, and I was still kind of seeing, even though I didn't have the glasses on, I was still kind of seeing red and blue, like red in one eye and blue in the other. And when I picked up a magazine and I tried to read it, like everything went blurry, and I almost passed out. And luckily my brother was standing there, because if I had fallen over, I would have cracked my skull open on a discount bookshelf that was behind me. Luckily my brother was there and he caught me. So I don't do that kind of 3D at all, ever. And I need to get a new Super Nintendo case or protector for this, because this thing is filthy. It's kind of gross, actually. But I'm glad that I picked this up. You can kind of see graphically, it's kind of intense, and it's busy, and the music is fantastic. And they released, for some reason, a repro of this. I think it was Retrobit or something. Released like a repro of this like a year ago or something. I'm like, no thanks, I'll just get the original. It's not a super expensive game. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, it's a run and gun. It has fantastic. Like, you'd appreciate the music in it, Peter, but it's a really cool run and gun, kind of like Contra. I would obsess answering of playing those X-Men Game Gear games back then. Didn't own or have access to Game Gear. There's like 3 of them, but I'm glad I got the original. I just need to get the other 2 or whatever, how many there are. There's a lot. One of my goals at every convention, I'll have to check out the music. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I also have a goal that I hold for every convention I go to, every game convention, that if I walk into a convention that has games like this or Mo GameCon, I have to walk out with a PSP game that I've never heard of before. I didn't find any that I had never heard of. Like, this was like a really light PSP con. Usually I find a table that has a ton of it. Didn't find a whole lot, but I found one that had a game that I had back when I originally had my PSP in the mid-2000s, and I have not seen it since. And I got it for a decent price because the cover art is a little water damaged. Not noticeable. You have to be holding it up right in your face to see it. But it's like playing a Robert Rodriguez action movie, and I absolutely loved it back in the day. And that is Chili Con Carnage. And like I said, it is a Robert Rodriguez action game. It is almost like you're playing Desperado, the game. You're just playing as this guy that picks up random weapons, just annihilates every single person that gets in your way. The manual, I almost called it a magazine. The manual and the UMD itself are perfectly fine. It's just the artwork is a little wrinkled and all that. But outside of that, like you can see, like the bazooka shit and just the crazy ass guns, this game is super fun. Jim Powers gave you a headache. Yeah, I don't ever plan on playing it in 3D. It'll kill me. So I also picked up, was it 2 months ago? This was back in January. I got my my Poly Mega, and I also got my Atari 2600 Plus. The reason I wanted the Atari 2600 Plus over the Retron 77 that I had, is that the 2600 Plus is not only a licensed product from Atari itself, but it also, on top of playing 2600 games, it plays 7800 games, Atari 7800 games. And I had a 7800 in the early 2000s when I was back in collecting, and I loved it. And I loved the fact the most that it was backwards compatible with 2600 stuff. Now I have a 2600 that is forward compatible with 7800 stuff, mostly because the cartridges are the exact same size and shape. So I finally found a 7800 game that I wanted, and it was at this one booth that was enclosed, and they only were allowing so many people inside to look at things at a time, so they can keep track of how many people are in there, just in case someone decides to steal something. Because they also had stuff in the front of the waiting area too, so someone had to watch that, and someone had to watch the people inside. So I went there, and I picked up, was it two games? Was it two? Yeah, because I got this there too. Yeah. No, I got 3 games there. Okay, so I bought Karateka, or Karateka, I think it's how it's pronounced, Karateka, for the 7800, and it's still sealed, and I got this for like $15. This is by the guy who ended up developing Prince of Persia, the original Prince of Persia game that was on the computers and stuff. It was all about that animation. Well, this is where it started. This was all about the animation and how fluid it was. It was like he filmed people doing the moves and walking, and then he rotoscoped the graphics over them. And it is super smooth and silky. I had this back in the day. I had this for multiple consoles, actually. It found out by watching Eugene Myers, E.C. Myers vids, that there's a port of this on the Famicom in Japan, which I think I need to look for. But it's like a beat 'em up, but it's tactical. Like you have to like aim for the feet, the midsection, or the head, and you can do kicks and punches. And it's really, really fun. And the whole point is you're trying to rescue your girlfriend who's being held by a warlord in his castle. And you infiltrate the castle at the beginning, and then you're going through and taking out all the people on the way to get your girl back. And it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. And I was super stoked that I found this there. But I made a deal with the guy. Womp womp. Yeah, I made a deal with the guy because I not only got that, but I also found an NES game from my past. Sure, I have the better version on the Genesis, but nostalgia is for this game because I loved it. I watched a friend of mine. I had a friend named Gary back in, I think we met in 6th grade, and we were friends all through high school. I still talk to him every once in a while on Facebook. But this guy was like, you want to talk about somebody who was like a prodigy at playing video games? This guy could buy a video game that was considered one of like Ninja Gaiden, and he could beat it in one day, like the day he bought it. And then he calls me, and he's like, hey, I got Ninja Gaiden yesterday. I'm like, oh, cool. You want to come over and watch me beat it? And I'd be like, sure. And sure enough, he would complete the game in one sitting, barely ever dying. And it was like that with every game, like the hardest game you can think of, like this. He would get it, and then the next day he'd call me. You want to come over and watch me beat the Immortal? And this is one of the hardest games. This game is all about the memorization of like where things are on the floor of the stages. It's this adventure game that's like in an isometric view, and there are traps in every freaking area that you go to, and you have to memorize these patterns to walk in so you never fall into them because you're never going to get out because they're impossible to get out of. And sure enough, I watched him complete this game in one sitting. And it was crazy, but I absolutely loved it. I'd never seen anything like this before, the way it's set up. Like I said, when you're just wandering around the dungeons, it's in this isometric view, and there's people you end up talking to, there's people you end up buying stuff from, there's spells you cast. But you're this wizard that's trying to make your way through this dungeon looking for your master, the guy who trained you. Turns out he's actually the bad guy, and he's kind of lured you there. But the thing is, when you get into an actual fight, it zooms in, and you have this, like, you're looking at your character's back, and it's still kind of in this isometric view, and the person you are fighting is diagonally facing you, and you have to, like, dodge their blows to make their, they get, like, winded. Their, what do they call it? Like, not their agility, but, like, they get tired, and you're building up these, like, points, as you constantly swing your weapon, you get more and more tired. And when you get more tired, the slower you swing your weapon. And once they start swinging slow, that's when you start attacking. But you're normally just dodging their attack. And you can see that happening like right here. And I think it's funny that they're showing the final boss battle right there. But for the most part, you're wandering around these dungeons in these like isometric views. The music in this game is fantastic. Has probably the best pause music after Battletoads. And it's awesome. The Genesis version is the true version because this was censored for the NES. I guess this originally came out for like the Mac or something. And when you get into a fight, you normally would do a finishing move when you finish off your opponent, and it was graphically violent. Nintendo ain't having none of that. The Genesis version has those fatalities. So like in the Genesis version, or like this version, you'll kill an orc, and you're just slashing at him, slash, slash, slash. You finally kill him, and it just goes back to the isometric view of the dungeon. In the Genesis version, you slash, 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 and then all of a sudden you'll cut their head off, and their head will fly up in the air, and then hit the ground and splat in blood and slide away. Or you'll cut the guy vertically from the head down to the crotch, and you'll see their body split in half and all their innards spill out. That kind of stuff. Yeah, Nintendo ain't having that. But I have super nostalgic feelings for this game, so I felt like I needed to get it. And I bundled it with Karateka, and I bundled it with Christmas Nights for the Sega Saturn. I've been looking for this forever. There are people that make replicas of this or reproductions of this in a full-sized Genesis or Sega Saturn box and all that, but I don't need that. I just wanted this. So what is this? This was given away, I think, with a magazine or something, or you had to send away for it or something like that. And it's basically the game of Nights into Dreams done with a Christmas theme. It's basically the exact same thing. It's just a new coat of paint. And apparently this is kind of rare. And the thing is, I didn't pay a lot for it. Like I said, I bundled it with all this stuff. And Rocket Sauce was with me when I bought this. And he goes, the price you just paid is way cheaper than what he saw the Q Dogs pay for it at, I think, Portland Retro Gaming Convention at PRGE. And he's like, don't tell him what you paid for it because he'll get mad because I paid like $15 less than him, I think. But yeah, you can kind of, it's a bunch of jumbles of different screenshots thrown together, but it's nights, but you're playing in the winter and it's a Christmas themed game. But I was super stoked that I got that. Digital Eclipse release of Karateka. So he was hiding a Game Genie from me. What are you talking about? And I ended up coming across another Super Famicom game that I've been wanting because it's my favorite Final Fantasy game out of all of them. It's the first one that I played and I bought myself and really got into it. And I don't think any of them have ever really truly lived up to this game in my eyes. Like, I played a lot of them that are good. This one is always going to be my favorite, I think. And that is, in Japan, it was known as Final Fantasy IV. Over here, it was Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo. This one is my all-time favorite Final Fantasy game. So when I saw it dirt cheap at this one table that was selling nothing but Super Famicom stuff, I was just kind of like, I feel like I need to buy this. I even said it to Ryan. I'm like, I feel like I need to buy this. Actually, no, I think I got this on Saturday. Otherwise, that's why Ryan was there. So I got Christmas Nights on Saturday too then, because I never saw Ryan on Sunday. Okay. Yeah. I got my days confused. If I shot this right after the convention, I probably remember that. And it looks brand spanking new. Like, the manual is super crispy. The box is super crispy. The cartridge doesn't look like it's ever been played. So, absolutely had to snag this. Yeah, I think I got this on Saturday. Yeah, because I remember I bought more games on Saturday than I did on Sunday, and the stack of games was higher for Sunday when I put everything together. I got it wrong. Sorry about that. Anyway. Your friend that can beat every game. Oh, yeah. From the block. No, he would just... Ninja Gaiden 1 came out. He beat it in one day. Then the next day he asks me to come over and he plays through it in one sitting. Same with Part 2. I don't think he did it with Part 3. But like Metal Storm... I think it was the original Metroid. He beat Super Mario Brothers 2 in one sitting for me. It was like the day after it came out. I'm like, did you play this like all night? Because that game was kind of long. It It was every single NES game he had. He would be like, he'd call me the next day, like, you want to come over and see me complete it? I'm like, yeah, sure. That way I don't have to buy it. But most of the time he was doing that because I didn't have an NES at that point. He was just trying to like say like, here, this is what the games are like for this console. You can live vicariously through me kind of thing. And one of my other rules that I have when I go to a convention is I have to at least try to get a 3DO game to add to the collection. And I found one that is still sealed. And I do believe I got this at the same place I got this big deal at, but I went back and got that deal. And that is Psychic Detective. This is another full motion video game where you watch a bunch of movies and you end up having to like solve mysteries and stuff. I've never actually played this one before. This one is completely new to me. And the coolest thing about it is still sealed. It is brand spanking new. Never been opened. It even has a Babbage's price sticker on it. Babbage's, it does not even exist anymore. I can't even see what the price is. It's faded. But I absolutely had to get this when I saw it. I saw it behind the counter of this one specific table and where I got my big deal from. And I was just like, how much is that? Because they didn't have any of the prices in full view. And the guy told me what it was. And I was like, that's actually not bad for this. Because I've seen this before. And like I see some place where this is over $100. And then I got it for a little over half that. So I had to snag that one. I was really, really excited about that because I saw a copy of that at Mo Game Con last year, and it was incomplete, which is why I never bought it. Also, randomly found this at one of the tables. I've always been curious about it. This has been in my wish list or want list on Amazon forever, and I just never pulled the trigger for it. But I don't really know much about it. It looks kind of silly. The cover art is kind of shitty, but on the front, it says it's by Namco, and it was an E3 2005 Editor's Choice finalist. And it's this game called Rebel Star Tactical Command by Namco. And it's like an isometric, tactics game, tactical RPG that involves aliens. So to me, that says XCOM. So I've always been interested in this because of that aspect, because I love XCOM, the old XCOM, the new XCOM, any XCOM. I think it's awesome. So absolutely had to get a copy of this, and I just never pulled the trigger on Amazon, like I said, but I found it there for like $25. So I was like, why the hell not? I'll save those for later. So I remember I met up with Captain Algebra and Midwest Media Show, Dan, and we were chatting about what we were going to do for Mo Game Con this year, the fact that we were possibly thinking about going to Portland Retro Gaming Expo, PRGE, next year instead of Mo Game Con. And after we finished talking, I walked over to this one booth that I was looking at, and they had a bunch of NES games that I've always wanted. And I didn't realize one of them had two versions of it from two different companies, but I went for the one that I think looked better. One of them was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is a port of the arcade game that came out in the 80s to coincide with the release of Temple of Doom by Atari, which is why Tengen released this, because Tengen is Atari, just in a different form, doing these unlicensed games for the NES. And while it doesn't look a whole lot like the arcade game, the graphics are very simple compared to the arcade. I remember the arcade game looked pretty good for the time. It's not the greatest, but apparently Mindscape also released a version of this, and I saw a copy of it at the con as well. And I remember looking at the back of this and going like, wow, Mindscape, this looks like dog shit. You have outdone yourself, because I absolutely hate Mindscape. And then I remembered, I'm like, didn't Tengen release this as well? And then I find it at this table. And I was like, I'll take it. And I opened it up, and sure enough, I was super stoked that it is the unlicensed version of the game, the one that has the strange-shaped cartridge, which I love. I love the design of this, the way it's all one label, and the label's actually bigger than your standard label. And it has the manual and the original Tengen slip for the cartridge as well, which is awesome. I just love it. I love Tengen stuff. I think it's great. That's another one of my little sub-goals, collecting goals, is to get all the Tengen games, including Tetris. It's going to take a while, but whatever. I have a good amount of them already. But super happy to get this. And I bundled it with this other game, and the guy was kind of a dumbass. So, Hang on a second. Let me put this back together. So I bring this up to the guy that's running the register and a copy of Wolverine for the NES. This is the LJN Wolverine game that gets a lot of shit, but I think this is one of the better LJN games. This one is actually really, really fun. Yeah, it's kind of stupid that when Wolverine, you have the option of having your claws out or not. And when you have the claws out, you're like, you have like a time limit to be able to use them. Like you have a meter that goes down, and once you've reached that, they go back in. You can't use them until it recharges or whatever. And it's really kind of dumb. Wolverine does nothing but use his claws. Why would you do that? They basically did it so they nerfed the game for you. But the thing is, you don't actually have to fight anything in this game. When I got home and I played this, it's still sitting in my Polymega right now. I ran through the first 3 levels without fighting anybody. I just kept jumping over them and running around without even taking my claws out once. And it's like, you can play this game without beating up anybody. Yeah, your score is going to be garbage, but whatever. There's a Wolverine in an X-Men mega battle versus his arch nemesis Sabretooth. I think Sabretooth is the big bad in this. But the music is absolutely fantastic. Cygnus Destroyer, a.k.a. the LJN Defender, used to use music from this game in all of his videos. The graphics are really colorful and really cool, and it's a really fun game. LJN does not make nothing but trash. They make some fun stuff. So I was super stoked to get this for a decent price. So the thing was, I bundled these two together, and I bring them up to the guy at the register. And I want to say together, these were both like $225 bucks. And I say to the guy, would you do 200? Like flat 200. And the guy goes, I don't know. Let me think about it. So he like goes to his phone and he like looks up the prices again online, and then he goes to a calculator and he like punches in a bunch of stuff. He goes, I don't know. How about 200? And I go, what? And the guy goes, to counter your offer, would you do 200? I look at him, I go, that was what I offered to pay. And he goes, oh, did I just undercut myself? I'm like, yes, you did. He goes, okay, I guess I'm doing 200 for it. I'm like, there you go. Yeah, because Wolverine is kind of an expensive game, but I was just happy to have it in the collection. Indiana Jones wasn't too cheap either, but I'm super happy that I got them. And I undercut that guy, undercut himself. That was so freaking funny to me. And then I went back to that Sega table where I got all those 32X games the day before and all those Master System games where I got Golden Axe Warrior, because they had another 32X game, and it was one of those heavy hitters that I wanted. And like I said, I had gone to Retro Dimension, that store by my work, that usually is pretty overpriced, and I saw this game in their case. I saw this game also in their case, and I saw the price, and I was like, you can kiss my ass. Why are you charging that much for it? This is ridiculous. So this dude, or these two brothers that were running this like Sega table, like I said, had it in there for cheaper than that guy was selling it for, plus they were willing to make deals, so I bundled it with another game. So the game I bundled it with is a Sega Master System game, and that is Sagaya. And I do believe this is a game by Renovation that came out on the Genesis as well. This is like the downgraded port. And I guess it's also by Taito, or Taito released this version of it on the Master System, and Renovation released it on the Genesis. I don't know. But it's a side-scrolling shmup, like a horizontally scrolling shmup. And I was always interested in the Genesis version of it, and I totally forgot that they had released this also on the Master System. So when I saw it there, I was like, and this was not super expensive either. I was like, I'll bundle this with that other game, and hopefully I can get a deal. So, like I said, it's a horizontally scrolling shmup, and it looks pretty rad. I'm curious what this will be like on the Master System. But the big hitter for the 32X that I wanted to get is T-Mech. So this was an arcade game. So, like I keep on saying, if I wasn't playing Mortal Kombat in the arcade, I was playing Street Fighter 2, one of the Street Fighter 2s. If I wasn't playing that, I was playing Killer Instinct. If I wasn't playing that, I was playing WWF, the arcade game. If I wasn't playing that, I was playing our Virtual Fighter. If I wasn't playing those, I was playing T-Mech. So T-Mech was an arcade game that you had to sit down in. It was like a cockpit tank game. And it was like a competition. You're like in an arena with other tanks with all these different powers. You had to pick which tank you wanted to use. Each of them had strengths and weaknesses that you could use to your advantage or disadvantage or whatever. And when you would destroy one of the tanks, it would leave like a glowing green orb behind that you had to pick up. And once you had all the green orbs from all the other tanks, you would win that battle, and then you would start a new one. It was super fun. It was like playing an arcade version of Twisted Metal almost. And I loved it. I loved it to death. And I had this for the 32X back in the day when I originally had one in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And I got rid of it. And I've been wanting it back forever. And it is one of those really expensive games for the console. And you can see that it is like an in-the-cockpit tank simulator kind of thing. It's super futuristic. The graphics are all done like the Silicon Graphics stuff from Killer Instinct and Donkey Kong Country and all that. And this was, I do believe, by Atari. The arcade game was by Atari. And seeing it at the convention, and it was cheaper than it was at that store I went to, and it was in decent shape, and I was able to bundle it with something else and get it for a decent price, I jumped on it. So I am super stoked that this is in my collection now. And then when I bought this, and this is like one of the pricier games for the console, that was when I said, well, if I keep up at this pace, maybe I could go for a complete 32X set. And then I kind of look down and I see Web of Fire, the Spider-Man game, and that these guys had a copy of it. A double, apparently, because everything they had in that case was a double. A double of it for $1,400. I was like, I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll get to that. We'll jump over that hurdle when we get there. And the last thing that I bought at the convention was this. And this is the super stupid deal that I got. So the place where I got Psychic Detective, I saw a couple of things in their case there. One of the games I was hoping to get a copy of was Dragon Warrior 2. This guy was selling a copy of it, but it had no map in it. And it was for a good price. And I was considering, like, maybe I'll just buy the map separately because this price is too good to let go of. Like, I was like, maybe I should just buy it and bite the bullet and do it and get the map elsewhere later. And I went back to that table thinking I was going to do that. And then I'm really looking in because they had stuff behind the counter that was like the really super expensive stuff. They also had a lot of really expensive stuff in this big glass shelving unit thing that was like at the corner of their table in the front. And that's where I saw the Dragon Warrior 2. So I'm standing there looking at it, and I start looking at all the other games they have, and I see this thing on the shelf, and I'm like, what is that? And I look closer, and I could not read what the font said because of where it was in the case. So I asked one of the guys behind the counter, I'm like, can I take a look at this Game Boy game over here real quick? And the guy goes, yeah, sure. And he pulls it out, and I'm like, holy shit! I didn't know that had a Game Boy port. This is a PlayStation game. When did it get a Game Boy port? I had no clue. And then I see the price on it, and I go, oh, fuck no. Put it back. And the guy goes, well, wait a minute. He's like, I think that price might be wrong. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. I priced these like a year ago, and it never sold at the other conventions I went to. I'm like, well, for that price, I can imagine why. I can't imagine why. And he goes, let me do a double check real quick. And he like goes on his phone, and he's like looking around. He goes, oh, yeah, this has really come down in price since I did that price. And I'm like, really? How much is it? And he goes, 150 from 400. It was marked for 400. And he goes, 150. And I go, is this a hard game to come by? Because like I said, I never know. He goes, yeah, actually it is. I'm like, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it before. I'm like, is that worth it? He goes, yeah, it's actually a pretty fun game. And I'm like, and I do like the PlayStation game that this is based on. So like I said, I go to these conventions with all this money in my pocket with the intention of buying stuff I normally wouldn't be able to afford. And when a game comes down from $400 to $150, I was not going to say no. And it still has the label on here to remind me of what it was. And that is Battle Arena Toshinden for the Game Boy. This is a polygon fighting game it was one of the launch titles for the PlayStation in 1995. When did this get a Game Boy port? I had no clue. And plus, it's compatible with the Game Boy, the Super Game Boy, so you can play it in color too. And it is a one-on-one fighting game. The thing is, the graphics in this are like super deformed. So everybody's been like crunched down, kind of like Super Puzzle Fighter, and they have a giant anime head instead of what they look like in the arcade game. So you look at the cover and you can see kind of like the anime chibi versions of all the characters from the first game. So I was not going to say no to that. I was like, there's no guarantee I'll ever see this game again since I have never seen it or heard of it before or anything like that. I was like not going to say no, like I said. And it was complete. Got the game. Got the cardboard slip. Even the manual is like in a plastic bag, and it is crispy AF. This whole thing is crispy as hell. It looks like this has never been used. So I absolutely said, yeah, give it to me. The hell with Dragon Warrior 2. I'll get that later. I see that at every convention I go to. Maybe I'll do that. I'll go for that game at Mo Game Con this year. Who knows? But I was not in a million years going to say no to this. So Battle Arena Toshinden on the Game Boy. Hell yeah. And at that point, my friends had shown up. I don't think I bought anything when I was with them. I bought everything before they showed up. And once they showed up, we basically walked around the convention because they were not there to collect and buy anything. Although there is something I should pick up and bring over real quick. Because I did buy one thing with my buddy Justin before my friend Charlie showed up. I'll be right back. It's not video game related, but it's funny. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so my friend Justin and I are both fans of Stargate SG-1. I think we both like the movies. I think he likes the movie too. But we're fans of Stargate SG-1, the show. And we ran across a table when I was giving him like a little walkthrough of the... no, we all walked through, but I think it was before Charlie showed up. There was one table that was doing these like shale art things. Like, I guess shale is like a thing that people use now a lot for crafts and whatever. So this dude had a lot of shale, like, what do they call them? Not cup holders. The things you put on the table so you can put a glass on top of it so it won't leave a ring on your table. I can't remember what the... Why am I drawing a blank on the name of this damn thing? I can't remember what it's called. Shit. But whatever. They had Stargate-themed ones in shale. And my buddy Justin was like, I'll buy a set of those because we're both like, he's into that. I like that. And I was thinking about buying them too, but I got the guy's coaster. It's a coaster. Why can't I think of these things? This is what happens when I don't eat today, and I barely have anything to drink, and I'm waiting for the stream to be over so I can go and make some dinner and actually get some food in my stomach. And I haven't had anything to drink. I'm waiting to drink this thing here because I need to get to the point where I can talk about it so I can open it. So he bought these shale Stargate coasters, and I was considering buying them also. But like I said, I ended up getting the guy's business card. I can get them off of his website. No big deal. So we're walking around, and my buddy Charlie's about to show up, and we're about to walk out, and we walk past this table where everything on this table is something that's been 3D printed. And there's some movie-themed stuff, but most of it was like those little dragons that you see that move like a snake. Like they're all linked. The pieces are all linked together, and they slither. And all that. And this other Stargate thing caught my eye. And I'm looking at it and I go, what is that for? And the woman behind the counter is like, oh, if you have an Echo, Amazon Echo Dot, it fits inside this thing and it's like a holder and it makes it look like the Stargate is alive. I go, what? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, how much is it? She goes, $20. I'm like, I'll take it. So I bought this replica, like this 3D printed Stargate that is super light or whatever, and you put the cord of your Echo Dot through here, and then you basically just insert your dot into the center and plug it in through that hole, and whenever you use your dot, that light on the outside ring lights up, and it actually looks like it's dialing the Stargate. It is the coolest freaking thing I've ever bought. I'm so cool I was so happy when I booted this up for the first time, when I plugged it back in and put the dot in here and said, hey, Alexa, what time is it? And you see that little blue ring go around like that. And I'm like, oh, my God, my Alexa's dialing the Stargate. Let's go to Abydos. I was like, this is the coolest freaking thing ever. I'm so glad I splurged for that. Oh, man. Oh, I also forgot to talk about something. Oh, shit. How could I forget that? Anyway, Saturday, one of the things I did on Saturday, one of the things I was really excited about too. Hang on one second. Let me bring these up real quick. I think I can show them on here too. Facebooking. Go to my page. And I have a story to tell about this as well. So if you know me, you know me in Mortal Kombat. We got a thing going on. Let's see. Photos. Albums, I think. Or Midlife Crisis Media photos. Yep. I'll save these to my hard drive. Excuse me. Save. Nope. Save. Save. I should have done this. I totally forgot about this. Anyway. So this happened. This is the first thing I did on Saturday when I got to the convention. Why did I forget this? I don't know. I'll do that too. And this. I'll show all these pictures. Yeah. I had everything prepped for the stream this morning before I went to work, and then I totally forgotten about this stuff. Anyway, okay, so that's done. I go over here to pictures. And I just bring all those in here. One more second, everybody. So okay. Open. Okay, so first thing I did, well, one of the things I always try to find out if this is going to be a thing at the conventions I go to is, I'm trying to collect all of my Mortal Kombat signatures. How did I forget about this? Because I didn't take a picture of it. That's why. So ever since the 90s, I've been collecting signatures of the actors who were in the Mortal Kombat games. So was it Mortal Kombat 2 came out on the home consoles, and Mortal Kombat 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Super obsessed with it, obviously. And my friend Gary, the one I was talking about, who was like the game guru. A second. Go back to the comments. There we go. He knows people from Midway. He has actually gone there because he was a martial artist, and he actually knew some of the people that worked on Mortal Kombat and some of the people that acted in it. Found out that they were going to have a screen or a signing with some of the actors at a local game store that was by my home, and that's where I first met Daniel Pesina and Philip Ahn. Daniel Pesina played Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Smoke. And Philip Ahn played Shang Tsung in part 2. And that's also where that big story that, Daniel Pesina insulted me or whatever at the con, at the signing and all that. And I hated him for 20 some years until I met him at Midwest Gaming Classic years down the road. And he ended up being a pretty cool guy. And I've run into him multiple times at these cons, and I've talked to him every time. So I've been trying to collect everyone's signatures on my Mortal Kombat Super Nintendo box and a poster that I have. And I'm pretty close to having everybody's signature. This year, all of the crew that I've met before, so it was going to be Daniel Pesina, who, like I said, was Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Smoke, was going to be there. His brother, Carlos Pesina, who played Raiden, was going to be there. I've met him already. Richard DeVizio, who played Kano in the first game and Baraka in part 2, was going to be there. I've met him before. He's a super cool guy. Caitlin, I cannot remember her last name. Caitlin, she played Kitana and Jade and Melina in part 2. She was going to be there. She was super cool as well. John Parrish, who played Jax in part 2 and 3, was going to be there. I've met him. He is rad. Philip Ahn was going to be there, who played Shang Tsung. And for the first time, this guy is he lives in Chicago, from what I understand. He just never seems to be at the conventions in the Chicagoland area when I want to meet him. and it's Ho Sung Pak. It's the guy who played Liu Kang in the first 2 games. And he was going to be there, and I was like, I need a signature. So the first thing I did when I got to the convention was I wanted to get his signature and get it out of the way so I don't have to carry around this poster roll around the whole convention and all that. So I walk up to the table. So I walk up to the table at the right where the vendor's hall is. I walk up to the table, and I walk straight up to Ho Sung Pak. And he's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, hey, could I possibly get your signature on a couple of things? And he goes, oh, well, there's kind of a process, and I think you need to go to the line over there and pay in advance, and then you come down the line and get all the signatures you need, and that's how it works. And I'm like, oh, well, I only need your signature. And he goes, yeah, but I think that's how you need to do it. I'm like, okay, fine. So I walk to the back of this line that's been forming at the front of the table, and there's a handler that's going up and down the line talking to the people, seeing what they want. So the handler gets up to me after I've been standing there for like 5 minutes, and he goes, whose signatures are you after? And I go, I was just looking to get Ho Sung Pak's signature. He's the only one I need. And he goes, oh, you can just walk up to him and get his signature right now. I'm like, I did that. And he told me that I needed to get back in line and like pay in advance and then go down the line of everybody. And all. I only want to meet him. And he goes, no, come with me. So he like grabs me by my backpack, and he like brings me over to Ho Sung Pak, and he goes, look, to like Ho Sung Pak. He's like, look, he just wants your autograph. He doesn't have to do all this stuff. That's for people that want to get everybody's autograph. And he goes, oh, I am so sorry. He's like, what do you got? So I bust out my Mortal Kombat 2 Super Nintendo box and my poster, and he sees all the signatures that I already have. And he's like, damn, like, where did you get all of these? And I'm like, I've been collecting these since like 1994. And I told him, I'm like, the first signature I got right there was from Philip On and Daniel Pacina back in 94 at this store called Software Junction. He's like, geez, he's like, you don't even have a whole lot of room to sign anymore. And I'm like, well, you can find a place, I'm pretty sure. So I got him to sign my Mortal Kombat 2 box, and you can see, like I said, it is running out of space. And his signature is the one that's in white right here that goes over the dragon's face. Ho Sung Pak, Liu Kang. And he also signed that on my poster as well. And then Carlos Pacina did something that I did not expect him to do. I did not even really notice he was doing it until it was done. But like, I got Ho Sung Pak to sign my box, and when he did, I didn't want to stick it back in the protector because it was drying, and I put it down on the table, and then I was dealing with my poster. And while I was dealing with the poster, he grabbed my box, and he stuck this like authentication sticker on the back to say that all the signatures on this box are the real deal and not fakes. The only thing was I didn't see him do it. So when I'm trying to stick this back in the protector after I get all my signatures, I'm like, why is this getting stuck? What? It's not stuck. What is it getting? And I look, and it was like peeling the label off the box, and you can kind of see some of the pointy ends of it on this side right here are like peeled back because it was like ripping off. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, dude, why didn't you ask me if I wanted that or not? I'm not planning on selling this. This is me. This is for me. I don't want this on my box. I'm like, thanks. I'm like, douche. So the thing is that Ho Sung Pak felt bad about giving me that bad information. So I did not pay for anything other than the autographs. But he goes, you know what? Come around the table and we'll take some pictures together. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. Come around. We'll take some pictures. He's like, I'm sorry for, making you go through all that crap over there. I'm like, okay. And he turned out to be one of the nicest, most accommodating people I've met so far from all these Mortal Kombat. I'm like, he even beat out the guy that played Baraka and Kano. Like, he was just Mr. Outgoing. Ho Sung Pak was just the nicest dude ever. And we ended up taking all these pictures. I thought we were taking one picture. And the guy that was the handler, I guess Ho Sung Pak told him, take as many pictures as you can. Because we ended up taking a lot. So there was this. And he was like, okay, now, and then after we take this picture, he goes, now fight me. And I'm like, what? He goes, fight me. Act like you're going to fight me. I'm like, okay. So we do this. And I locked eyes with him. And the look on his face is like, what is going on? Because I like locked eyes with him. He was like, you told me to like get into like a fighting stance. And I'm like, I looked him in the eye and he went like, oh shit. And you can see my poster at the bottom of the screen there too that he signed. he signed it in yellow. And then the guy that was taking the pictures just kept on snapping pictures. So like after we were going to fight each other, I was looking away and he pointed and goes, "Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it?" And that's him going, "Did you get it?" So that was my experience with that. And then he like shook my hand and I was like, "Dude, you are too cool." So yeah, that was my Mortal Kombat experience there. But then other stuff around the con, like Mondane Designs is a huge fan of working designs. The company, they released the Lunar games on the Sega CD and the PlayStation 1. Their stuff is usually super expensive now, like Shining Wisdom, I think, is one of their games, and Arc the Lad or whatever. I have the Arc the Lad collection or whatever. They had this thing I saw behind the counter of one of the tables. I took a picture of and I sent it to Mondane Designs, and he was just like, "Fuck." And it's this. It's like somebody had like the artwork framed and all the discs of each of the games like framed together. And they were selling these things for like hundreds of dollars. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And I also ran into Captain Algebra and Dan. I got this picture taken when we're talking about possibly going to PRGE. I took this picture of all of us. And then went to the arcade on Saturday with Rocket Sauce. And I saw the 3D glasses that you need to play certain games on the Sega Master System. They had a TV set up with a Master System, a phaser, and the 3D glasses. And I've never used the 3D glasses for the Master System before. So I was playing Missile Defense 3D, and Rocket Sauce took a picture of me doing it. And then Peter was streaming this game like years ago on his channel, and I guess he really enjoys it. And I saw a copy of it at that table where I picked up Christmas Nights and Karateka, and I took a picture of him like, "You want it?" It's Super Troll Islands. And he was just like, "Nah, I'm good." So anyway, fun time over. So yeah, the convention ended. I took my friends, like I said, throughout the arcade and the museum, and we checked out every single room on the third, second, and first floors of the convention center. And once that was done, like we were like, okay, that's it for the convention. I'm like, I guess that's it. So we all kind of went our separate ways and went home, and the convention was over. Came home, cataloged all my stuff, and that was that. But that's not all, because I usually, so C2E2, the Comic Expo, or the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo that comes to the city every April-ish, usually happens the same weekend as the Midwest Gaming Classic. So I usually can't go. When it does not happen on the same weekend, I at least want to go for one day. I went this past weekend on Sunday, and holy shit, did they jack the prices up of everything at this convention. Like, it is ridiculous. So if you want a Sunday-only badge and you're buying your tickets in November, it's $50. In February, the ticket price jacked up to $60. At the end of March, it jacked up to $70. And then if you buy them day of, it's $80. I paid $80 for one day. That's almost as much as I paid for the entire weekend at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think that's more than I paid for the entire weekend at the Midwest Gaming Classic. That is ridiculous. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go until like the weekend it's there. So that's stupid. Anyway, but I went, me and my buddy Justin that I met up with at the Midwest Gaming Classic. We decided to go and just check it out. I did not bring any cash with me. Like I said, I had no intention of buying anything while I was there. Yep, he was in Legend of Drunken Master. He's that guy that has that big fight with Jackie Chan at the end. And yeah, I was really kind of starstruck because I saw that movie in the theater. And I was just kind of like, this is super cool. And he ended up being rad as hell. I was like, yeah, he's awesome. I like him. He's cool. So like I said, I did not have the intention of buying anything there. I don't buy comic books. If I do, and it's a license I like, I will usually just wait till a graphic novel comes out. The only reason I really wanted to go was I wanted to see what was there. Some celebrities were there. I was toying with the idea of maybe getting an autograph from one of them. But my friend Jeremiah that I do my podcast, The Movie Starting With, is a comic book writer on the side from his day job. And he had a table there with his artist, Arcangelo Crelensia, for their comic book Ashes. And I talked about Ashes last month, too, because Jeremiah finally released the third issue of his comic Ashes, and Jeremiah sold me copies of them, and I had him and Angelo sign them for me. And usually at the conventions, if they have a table, they have a convention exclusive cover. And I wanted to be able to get those from Jeremiah and like support him and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I wanted to do was go and see him and Angelo at their table, get the Comic-Conics or the C2E2 exclusive cover variants, and maybe see a celebrity or two and maybe buy some tchotchke knick-knack things if I can. So I went to Jeremiah's table first. That was the first thing Justin and I did when we got there. And sure enough, Jeremiah and Angelo have not one but two exclusive comic book cover variants of Ashes issue 1 and 2. So I bought copies of those. So this is issue 1 variant cover of Ashes with the cover art drawn by Jack Dunn instead of Angelo. So you got Arcangelo Colencia, Jeremiah Wolf. And issue 2, the variant is drawn by this artist named Damon Hampton. And that's the cover for that. And the thing is, Damon was actually at the convention too. So when I got Jeremiah and Angelo to sign this one for me, they were like, or Jeremiah was like, Damon's table's like right in the other aisle. You can just walk up to him and he'll sign it for you. And that's where the signature right here in black is. Damon signed it for me. So I was super happy to get those off of Jeremiah. I got to support my friends when I can. And also picked up a little something for Peter, which he will get when I see him at Mo Game Con. Couldn't pass it up when I saw it, dude. I was like, there's no way I'm not buying this for Peter. He would absolutely love it. So little sneak peek, you're getting something when we go to Mo Game Con. Also, did not go to the convention, did not go to C2E2. Gaming is not in the title of the convention. It is Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. Like I said, I was going there to support my buddy, the comic book artist. Gigi Edgley, who played Chiana on Farscape, was there. She wasn't with like the actual like convention themselves where all the people that were celebs were in the back and they have like a table that they're signing at kind of thing. She was like teamed up with a company that was selling stuff at the convention, and she was sitting at their table doing autographs. And I was like, if it's free, if it's like, you go to the table and you get an autograph for free, I'll do it. But if she's charging money, no. So I looked and it was like $40 for an autograph and $30 for a photograph. So it was like $70 for the combo. I was just kind of like, no. But I saw her. I walked past the table and she was there. She looks great. I'm a big fan of hers from Farscape and from a fan series of Star Trek called Star Trek Continues that it's on YouTube, actually. You can watch it there. And it's basically year 4 and 5 of the original Star Trek series. It's like after the original show got canceled, this is what season 4 and 5 would have been. And she's in one of the episodes of it. And she's fantastic in the episode. She has like a psychic connection to this rock monster that like crashes through the Enterprise and is going to demolish it, but she can communicate with it somehow. It's really a good episode. So I saw her, saw a bunch of the celebs that were sitting at the tables in the back. I saw Tom Skerritt, who was from Alien and Top Gun. Saw Veronica Cartwright, who was an Alien also. They had like a little Alien reunion thing. They had a panel together talking about Alien. They had a Hannibal, the TV show reunion. Hugh Dancy, who played Will Graham, was there, and I saw him at his table. Mads Mikkelsen was there, who played Hannibal. He also was in Casino Royale and Rogue One. He was behind a curtain for some reason. I didn't get to see him, but they had a panel as well. Josh Brolin was supposed to be there, and he had a panel that was going to happen on Sunday while we were there, but he canceled, and he was going to talk about Dune and Avengers and all that. So that was kind of a bummer. The only panels I had any interest in checking was there was one that was about Dungeons and Dragons world building, like for your games. If you're the dungeon master, here's some tips on how to world build. And Justin and I walked in there, and we listened to the guy talk. The people talk for like 3 minutes, and we're like, "This sounds like gobbledygook. Let's get out of here." And we left. And there was another one that was happening about Godzilla movies, and we just didn't bother because we were tired at the end of the day, and it was kind of close to the end of the day. But like I said, the last thing I expected to find at this convention was video games. So we're walking around. We checked out every nook and cranny of the vendors hall. We went everywhere. And then, of course, we walk across one that is nothing but video games. Like there is a high-end video game reseller there. And they had a case in the front with like really crazy, rare-ass games. They had a loose copy of Little Samson in the case in the front. And I was just like, Jesus, dude. Did they know I was coming? They're trying to tempt me. So naturally, I'm like, I'm going to go inside the booth and look around. And I kind of ignored all the disc-based stuff. I saw that they had a bunch of Genesis stuff, Super Nintendo, Nintendo. They had some 32X. They had some Game Gear. So I go over there to look at the cartridge stuff, and I'm like, there was some stuff for the NES that I was seriously considering picking up until I saw the prices. They had Jurassic Park for the NES. They wanted $120 for it. Nope, right back on the shelf. They had another game that I was looking at that was like 60 or 70 bucks, and I was like, no, put that back on the shelf. I don't remember what it was. That's not important. But I looked at the 32X games they had, and two of them that I didn't have were actually pretty decent price. The two of them together cost 50 bucks. So I ended up picking up Virtual Racing Deluxe, which is Virtual Racing. They're calling it Deluxe because they released a version of this on the Genesis, and it was a really odd-looking cartridge because it had to have a whole bunch of special chips in it to be able to do polygons on the Genesis hardware. But they call this Deluxe because this is the better version of that. Okay. But this was not expensive. And I also picked up a copy of Doom. No, I paid 70 bucks for all this, which is still a good price for both of these. Doom, I saw at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and this thing was going for like $100. That's why I never picked up a copy of it there. So I snagged this there. Doom is, I understand, a not great port of Doom at all. Like, I guess it runs just fine, but it's like windowed. And they're showing it all close up here, but that's probably, from what I understand, it's windowed like that. So, sure, why not? Find games at a convention that you didn't plan on finding them. Of course, I'm going to buy something, so snag those two things. And last thing I did was on the way out, I saw this one booth that was selling everything that was they had a lot of stuff that was related to Fallout. So because of the Fallout TV show, Fallout's like peaking again. Oh no, Mr. Thrashin. It has something to do with something like that, though. Peter, are you still here? So I'm walking out, and like I said, I see this table that is selling a ton of stuff related to Fallout. And I remember that these came out like years ago, and I completely missed the boat on them. I was kind of pissed at myself that I never found them. But they had them there, and these are brand new editions of them. And we're talking about the Nuka-Colas that Jones Soda released. So they had the Nuka-Cola Quantum, which was it blue lemonade? Yeah, berry lemonade flavor soda. And then this special release that is called Nuka-Cola Victory, which I think is either strawberry or bubblegum. It doesn't actually say on here what flavor it is. Well, wait, no, actually it does. Peach mango flavored soda. This is peach mango. So I was like, yeah, I want to get one of each. So, I can put them up in my living room, like little collectible knick-knacky things. And because I love Fallout now that I've watched the entire show, and it's fantastic, and it's making me want to play the games now. So I'm like, sure. But the guy goes, oh, no, well, the sale is, you can get two of them if you want, but the sale is buy two and get one, or buy three and get them, what was it, buy two, get one free? I think it was. Yeah, buy two, get one free. So he goes, you can grab another one. And I'm like, okay, I'll grab the berry lemonade one. So I've been waiting the entire stream to open up this extra one that I have so I can try it. And I've been dying of thirst. So let's see how this goes. It is really sweet and tart. But it's good. My throat is no longer dry. I like it. So like I said, I'm going to have these two sitting in my living room as decorations, gaming decorations. Oh, there's even something written on the bottle cap, but I can't read it. Anyway. You're welcome. Anyway, so that is it for my stream. This is the longest stream I've done in a long time. But I had a lot to talk about. I had two conventions to cover, movies, stuff I bought elsewhere, as well as everything I picked up and my experiences at these two cons. So, yeah, I was expecting this one to go the distance. It's 11 o'clock at night here. It's 11:15. Jesus. So thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I'm definitely going to be hoarse tomorrow. I will be back on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central, with the next edition of my movie collection or my film collection live streams. I'm going to be dealing with everything that starts with the letter C in my collection, in my standalone Blu-ray collection. So come by for that. Also, if you're interested in Dungeons & Dragons, over the weekend, on Saturday, I streamed the newest episode of Tides of Flame, my D&D campaign, on Twitch, and it's still available for you over there if you want to see it. It was epic. It was a one big, long fight that had multiple stages to it. It was almost like a final boss battle kind of situation from a video game. And it was amazing. And some revelations about the characters, what they're looking for in life came to light. And it was a ton of fun, and it's awesome. I was so glad that it turned out the way it did. And that's, like I said, you can watch that on my Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/statblock20, all one word. And eventually I'll port that over to YouTube maybe in a couple of weeks for us to see there, or for you guys to see there if you're interested. And don't forget also to go to my The Movie is Starting YouTube channel, where everything from that podcast is now going to be posted. So it's youtube.com/the movie is starting, all one word, SHH. So, like I said, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You are awesome. I will talk to you hopefully on Thursday if you're able. So thank you for coming. Chris from Midlife Crisis Media out. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe out there.
You really are the most devious bastard in New York City.